Chapter 64. Their seeds. She still clearly remembered what he'd seen after the newbie trial from the brief introduction of the twin witches' seed. At that time, he hadn't known that they were the twin witches, so he had just named their seed the Sleeping Beauty's seed. This seed had 4 skills: vacuum seal, cutting blade, void burst, and the great circulation. Just upon hearing the names, one could understand that they weren't a mortal's skills. If it wasn't because the stars told Yunxi that it was very hard for him to merge with the seed, which would have taken him at least 100 years, perhaps he wouldn't have held back his desire to choose this strongest seed at that time. However, he had a second chance now, and this time, the information about this seed was way more detailed and terrifying than what he'd seen in the newbie trial. The twin witches' seed. Let's see the description of Red Lotus's seed first. Vacuum seal was Red Lotus's sword skill. She was an expert in the sword. With her Red Lotus holy sword, she could cut off mountains and rivers, breaking through clouds and sky. It was a top killing sword skill. Cutting blade was an attached skill of Red Lotus's holy sword. It could cut off 70% of low-level spirit weapons and 30% of middle-level spirit weapons, as easily as it would a piece of cake. Red Lotus's avatar. When Red Lotus was angry, she was blessed by the demon god. She could turn into the form of a Gaint demon god. When she was in this condition, she would lose her sanity and attack everyone except her sister. The sealed god weapon, Red Lotus holy sword. No one knew where Red Lotus had obtained it, but it was so powerful that Red Lotus had to seal most of its power. It could be regarded as a standard god weapon. Then, let's see what White Lotus's seed could offer. Void burst. It was White Lotus's defense spell. It could create a wall of heart, which could even withstand the attack of a standard god weapon. It could also be used as an ancillary attack, which meant that it was a powerful secret skill that could be used to defend and attack at the same time. The Great Circulation. White Lotus divined to know the coming future. It could tell her what her enemy, whose power wasn't 3 times stronger than her, would do within 3 seconds. The White Lotus Sanctuary. It was a blessing that only White Lotus could learn. It could dispel all evils and offer the power of heart to the friendly units who were within the range of 10 miles. The standard god weapon, the Ring of Star and Moon. It was blessed by the stars and forged by using White Lotus's blood, containing the breath of the primal fire. The first special talent of the twin witches, 2 bodies, 1 heart. They were perfect partners. When they fought together, they didn't have any weaknesses. The second special talent of the twin witches? It was an unknown godly talent. When the twin witches made concerted efforts, they would show terrible power. The bloodline godly weapon? It was an unknown legacy of White Lotus God's domain and was supposed to have relations with the primary power of the domain itself. The difficulty to merge the seed, extremely high. The affinity of the seed, extremely excellent. The predicted merging time, 50 years. Godong. Yunxi swallowed as he looked at the twin witch's seed. It was really a great lore. The merging time reduced from 100 years to 50 years. Although it was still far away from what he could reach, but at least, it was a giant leap. Beside, Yunxi knew that the seed's growth speed could be accelerated, and its capacity could be extended. It was like the sky flying sword, 10% done, what he obtained after choosing Hua Yue's seed. The more he learnt from their seeds, the more he knew about their potential and power. Should I choose their seed? Apart from Child Sanquan's seed, which Yunxi had decided to give up, the Archer in Red's seed and the Twin Witch's seed were both great lures for him. After the 2 trials, he had gained some understanding about the 3 seeds he could choose as his last reward. The first seed could improve his power as quick as possible. It was a seed he should choose when he had an urgent need. The second seed contained great potential and unknown growth speed. The third contained the strongest power and the most terrible characteristics. However, he needed time to absorb them. The more powerful the seed was, the longer the time he needed to merge with them. The only way to accelerate the progress was to increase his affinity with the seed. In short, after obtaining the seed, if he wanted to improve his power, he had to increase his affinity with the seed as fast as possible. Well, did this mean? Looking at these seeds and remembering what happened after he obtained the love system of Starchild, Yunxi had a strong sense of foreboding. Was the love system of Starchild built to teach him how to fall in love with multiple girls and survive after that? Oh, holy crap. Was that really a thing that could come true? If the truth was exposed, he would definitely have a bloody future. At the least, his terrible childhood sweetheart, Hua Yue, would never just sit there and see such a thing coming to true. Besides, even though he could set White Lotus aside, but Red Lotus really wanted to kill him. Maya, were the stars going to murder me? After realizing what the seed would bring him, Yunshi just wanted to cry out. Why? He was just an ordinary baker in the small town, and his dream was just to marry a girl who was also born in the same town and was willing to spend her life with him. Hua Yue was his childhood sweetheart and his first love, but someday, she would leave that small town. The twin witches were two big shots he would never imagine knowing. He couldn't even dream of having any relations with them in his wildest dream. Master, the stars want you to grow up as fast as possible. What they did were all for your own good. Maya innocently looked at her master. Wake up the sleeping beauty by kissing her and save the princess from the tall tower. They were both perfect dramas in the stars' memory. They surely can improve your ability to love. Again, Yunshi felt how deep and special the stars' love was. Yeah, wake up the sleeping beauty in the forest, what a romantic story, and save the imprisoned princess from the tall tower, what an exciting exploit. However, he wasn't a prince nor a knight. The green hippo had killed him over 100 times, and the stone soldiers had killed him 315 times. And in the future, he certainly would die far more times than the past. Can I stop taking part in the trials? Why can't the stars just let me live normally and in peace? Yunshi forlornly gazed at his star fairy Maya. You can, master. If you don't mind that your ex-girlfriends will catch you, and do this sort of things and that sort of things to you. You won't even have a chance to die, and you will have this sort of things and that sort of things done to you by them. Maya honestly told Yunshi what he would face if he didn't become strong. I choose the twin witch's seed. Yunshi pressed his fingers on the last seed with mixed feelings of grief and indignation. Anyway, he would die. However, if he didn't fear death, he would fear nothing. Therefore, I chose you, the twin witch's seed. Chapter 65, Escape Plan. At the very moment Yunshi held the twin witch's seed in his hand, overwhelming information poured into his brain. Vacuum Seal, the Red Lotus Holy Sword, the Ring of Star and Moon, White Lotus Holy Field. One secret after another, ones which mortals would never know, were being imprinted into Yunshi's soul. Yunshi felt sick and dizzy. This was the price for receiving power far beyond his limit. The stars could help Yunshi merge with the hero rank seed, however, they couldn't help him avoid this pain. Aga. Yunshi knelt down on the ground of the Star Palace as he kept smashing the ground with his two hands. Compared to the pain he had felt when he received Hua Yue's seed, this was so much more intense. Hua Yue's seed contained unlimited potential, however, her seed had not transcended the mortal rank limit. But the twin witch's seed was the superlative seed amongst all hero rank seeds. Yunshi felt as if there was an immense library trying to be crammed into his brain. The painful truth was that he couldn't stop this process, and as he looked at the immense library, he could only see the books on the bottom shelves. He couldn't even see the books on the upper shelves. All the hero rank skills were marked with the tag sealed. None of the vacuum seal, the great circulation, and the twin witch's special blood talents was an exception. As I expected. I can't use it. Yunshi had expected this. The level of the twin witch's seed was too high for him now. In fact, the seed of the mysterious archer in red was his best choice, and since he needed to improve his combat power as fast as he could, Child San Quan's seed was also an optimized option. However, he had chosen the twin witch's seed. Why? He needed about 50 years to merge with this seed. It was no fooling matter. Probably, he also chose it because of their past relationship. Yunshi smiled bitterly. The taste of White Lotus's lips still remained on his lips. Without her devotion, enthusiasm and initiative, he wouldn't have passed through his first formal trial. At the end of his formal trial, she had chosen to be the primary fire that would ignite the dark world. Obviously, she had made some sacrifices. Therefore, choosing the twin witch's seed was in recognition of her sacrifice. He didn't think that he would make any further contact with the mysterious twin witches. Therefore, this was his gratitude but also his final link with them. Because soon after this, he would leave here. He would go to other sword domains where no one would know him. He would practice by himself to become stronger as he traveled through worlds. Escape White Lotus Sword Domain. This was Yunshi's final choice after thinking about it again and again. Hua Yue was going to leave the small town and join the Palace of Sword. She would step on her road to glory. After finishing the Palace of Sword's entrance exam, the twin witches would return to the Palace of Sword and were destined to be the twin masters of White Lotus Sword Domain. As for him, in order to dodge the unknown apostle who had arrived at Sky Sword God's domain and was searching for him, to leave White Lotus Sword Domain would be his best choice. He counted it again. His savings were able to get Thim through the Stellar Bridge and escape to another sword domain. After that, he would practice and build up his power and earn money at the same time, then use his fastest speed to escape from Sky Sword God's domain. He thought that he would finally be able to find a remote domain, where no one would go to look for him. As long as he kept going through the trials, he should be able to become stronger in the future. He still didn't know when would he stop worrying about being found by the apostle. Maybe after hundreds of years. Or after thousands of years. His past experience in the small town, his sweet memories about his childhood sweetheart, Hua Yue, his encounter with the twin witches, the secret room where he had stayed with his sword skill teacher, his secret game with Millie, Helpless, and Yi Li. There were too many things he didn't want to lose or forget. He just wanted to be a normal baker, living in peace. However, the coming of the stars and the series of deep trials had let him realize that he would never have these happy days again. He'd better escape from White Lotus Sword Domain before anyone noticed him. Hua Yue's seed, and the twin witch's seed, they both would become his precious memories. After he ran away, the two seeds would follow him and help him grow up. He would go today. The day the Palace of Sword exam was being held. At daybreak, he would secretly leave his home, leaving White Lotus Sword Domain. Hua Yue, goodbye. Red Lotus and White Lotus, goodbye. Millie, Helpless, and Yi Li, goodbye. Maya, are you ready to rove all over the world with me? After merging with the twin witch's seed, Yunshi looked at Maya with guilt in his eyes. It looked like the star fairy had to roam all over with them, although it just came to the world not long ago. As long as I can stay with you, everywhere is my heaven. Maya flew around and hummed songs with joy. Thank you, Maya. At least I still have you. It was really wonderful to have the stars send you to me. After checking the rewards he had obtained from the trial, Yunshi resolutely left the Palace of Stars. He would start a new life. He would leave his hometown, parents, and his small bake shop, going to unknown distant worlds. He had made this decision after he finished his newbie trial and practiced in the valley. He needed to kill more monsters like the green hippo in order to obtain more seeds. He needed to constantly keep getting stronger and walking straight on his own road. The deeper the star's love was, the harder the road he would step on would be. Puff. Yunshi opened his eyes and saw the familiar ceiling. However, he felt that something strange was lying down on his body. Was it his illusion? Yunshi lowered his head, then saw his familiar childhood sweetheart. The girl had a lively ponytail, soft and healthy petite body. She was in a really deep sleep. She didn't even know that her saliva had drooled onto her beautiful face. That was his childhood sweetheart, the most unique girl in the world, Hua Yue. Why was Hua Yue on his bed and lying down on his chest? For a moment, Yunshi's mind turned into a blank sheet. Oh. No, kill you, bitches. Hua Yue was still immersed herself in her dream and didn't notice that Yunshi had woken up. From her angry, unrelenting expression, she was having a very bad nightmare. Hua Yue, Yunshi couldn't stop the beads of sweat from dropping down from his forehead. Before he began his escape plan, he already faced a massive barrier. Chapter 66. The fight has yet to begin. Already fleeing, why was Hua Yue in his room and lying down on his chest? Did that mean when they were in the trial, they actually stayed in the same bed and kept such a pose all night? Looking at his childhood sweetheart's sleeping face, Yunshi was at a loss. Dawn was drawing nearer. The first ray of sunshine had entered through a crack in the window and shone on Hua Yue's delicate face. The 16-year-old Hua Yue was so lovely, youthful, and adorable. She practiced hard every day, but that didn't mar her skin even a tiny bit. She was still full of vitality. In another 2 years, she would grow up to be a wonderful beauty. Even now, she was already one of the most beautiful girls in the small town. At this moment, she was lying down on his chest. She looked like a sleeping kitten, clever and lovely. No one would imagine that she was a strong girl who could brandish a 2-handed sword and kill a fiery male dragon with great ease. Obviously, she was still a mortal, but she could defeat the male fiery dragon and fight against the future master of White Lotus Sword Domain. In the end, how many abilities was she still hiding? Hua Yue, Yunshi stretched out his hand and stroked Hua Yue's hair. For a moment, he was at a loss. Rage powers. His touch was like opening a switch. Instantly, Hua Yue woke up. The next moment, an invisible windstorm swept through Yunshi's room. Hua Yue's rage powers burst out, impacting the room and making a mess of everything. Ah, little she. Hua Yue hadn't completely woken up yet. She confusedly looked at Yunshi for a moment, then pulled him up. I'll protect you. None of those bitches, bastards can lay a finger on you. You are my little she. No one can take you away from me. Yunshi's back was drenched in a cold sweat. He pretended he knew nothing, then asked her, Hua Yue, did you have a nightmare? Nightmare. Dream. Hua Yue frowned tightly. She looked around the room, then suddenly realized something. Dream, yes. Was it a dream? Of course it was just a dream. Little she, you were not being kissed and taken away by those bitches. You went somewhere else and I couldn't find you. Hua Yue, I didn't go anywhere. Look, I was just sleeping in my room. Yunshi pretended that he was innocent and asked back, but you, why did you come to my room? Your room. Right. Here is. Hua Yue gasped for air and rubbed her temple. Strange. That was strange. Just now, she was still fighting against those bitches who were going to take away her Yunshi. Those bitches were very strong, so she had to arouse all her latent power and use the unique skill that she was told she should never use in front of others. Even so, she still couldn't beat them and had to end the fight, neither in victory nor defeat. As a result, when she woke up, she suddenly found out that everything was just a dream. Was it really just a dream? Then why was her heart in so much pain? Why did she still feel as if her most precious treasure had been snatched away? Hua Yue, did you have a nightmare? Yunshi asked his childhood sweetheart again, emphasizing that everything was just a dream. The Trial of the Stars was in an unknown dream world which had a totally different timeline and world rules from the real world. Otherwise, how was it possible that humans could revive inside a bonfire? Everything was just the stars test. It was a nightmare, but not completely. In fact, the first half of the dream was good. Hua Yue fell into her sweet memories. She wanted to keep everything she could still remember firmly within her mind before she completely forgot the memories. Have a date with little she, slay the dragon together little she, and kiss with little she. Nah. Why are my memories constantly becoming hazy? Details, remember the details. If only the first part of the dream had happened, it would be the perfect sweet dream. Why was the dream continuing on like that? Some bitches wanted to take away her little she, and she could only watch that happen. How could she endure such a thing? She would never tolerate such a thing. Little she, was it really just a dream? Hua Yue sniffed all over Yunshi's body but only smelt Maya's smell. Okay, her little she was only stolen in her dream, not in the real world. Yunshi was still the boy she knew. Her childhood sweetheart had only the little dog's smell on his body. Very good, little she. You haven't been stolen. Hua Yue patted her small chest. Her expression made her look like a survivor of a great disaster. Yunshi looked away with guilt. According to the plan, he should have left town during the last darkness before the coming of dawn. He had written a lot of letters. The letter he would send to his parents, the letter he would send to Hua Yue, and the letters he would send to Millie, Phyllis, and Yi Li. However, changes occurred faster than he could implement his plan. Before he had sent the letters, his childhood sweetheart had sneaked into his room. She, Had she had a premonition of his plan? Otherwise, why had she come to his room? Little Shi, I have made a decision. Hua Yue walked in circles around Yunshi's room, then finally made up her mind. She herself didn't know the reason, but from a few days ago she had felt distracted. Perhaps it was because she hadn't eaten Yunshi's special bread for a period of time. These past few days, she had come to check Yunshi's room several times, but hadn't seen Yunshi even once. Finally, last night, she had caught Yunshi in his room. She felt that she couldn't just sit by idly and remain indifferent. In order to protect her little Shi, to see him grow up healthily and smoothly, and for the most important reason, to keep Yunshi away from those bitches in her dream, she must make him reborn. What have you decided? Yunshi had a terrible foreboding. Yunshi knew his childhood sweetheart better than anyone. She was a super genius who was afraid of nothing. Even if she faced a fiery male dragon, she would tear it to pieces if it blocked her way. As a genius, nobody could guess her thoughts. Little Shi, come to the Sword Palace together with me. I will let you become my maid so that I can protect you. Hua Yue's bright eyes gazed at Yunshi, declaring the end of his escape plan. Go to the Sword Palace together with you as your maid. Yunshi looked at his childhood sweetheart in open-mouthed incredulity. What kind of brain could make such a conclusion and plan? Well, little Shi, you're still too weak right now. But fortunately, I have the legacy of Greatsword Maid. I think it's very suitable for you, Hua Yue said with a serious face, although Yunshi still thought that she was just talking nonsense. Greatsword Maid? What's that? Well, this matter is settled, so no more arguments. Little Shi, let me make you stronger. I swear I won't let any bitches get you. Rest assured. The power of this legacy is absolutely beyond your imagination. You can practice it even after you reach the 7th rank. This is one of the highest maid-type legacies of the Western Gods domain. Chapter 67. The Greatsword Maid. Little Shi, you don't know how powerful the maid legacy is. Even I, when I was a child, was once tempted to inherit one of the best maid legacies. If you haven't awakened your talent, I can't even let you inherit it. Little Shi, you have reached the 2nd rank. Why so soon? Did you go to practice the limitation training? Yunshi looked helpless and lifeless. His childhood sweetheart pulled him running at full speed on the street, and he didn't even have any guts to resist her a bit. All the people who saw this scene showed soft and kind smiles on their faces. Little Shi, little Hua Yue, you really get along well with each other. Hua Yue, when will you and Yunshi get married? You are really a lovers couple made in heaven. Sigh. Yunshi couldn't tell them the truth, he just couldn't say it. Looking at the uncles and aunts who cared about them, Yunshi didn't know how to tell them the truth that he was being kidnapped by his childhood sweetheart. Boom. Hua Yue pulled Yunshi into her home, then kicked the door open, rushing into the front yard. I remember it was buried here. Humph. Papa tried to cheat me into choosing this Greatsword Maid legacy, but he didn't expect that I had found out his intent from a long time ago. Hua Yue made a few turns around the 3rd willow in the courtyard, then decisively waved her fist and punched the ground. Boom. As the sand and the dust blew up into the air, a dark box appeared near Hua Yue's feet. It looked like the box had been specially treated, and was buried at the bottom of the willow root. Since it was buried so stealthily, Hua Yue, how did you find it so easily? This is. Yunshi looked at this seemingly normal thick box, having an ominous foreboding in his heart. Well, little Shi. Come here, Hua Yue smiled with satisfaction. She pulled Yunshi and ran towards her room. Poor Yunshi didn't even have a chance to resist her and was pulled into his childhood sweetheart's room. In Hua Yue's room. Yunshi hadn't had entered Hua Yue's room for a long time. However, he still felt that Hua Yue's room was really incredible, just as he used to feel when he was a kid. Swords. One row after another, swords. From assassin's sleeve daggers to standard two-handed swords, Hua Yue's room was full of all sorts of swords. In his childhood, he had thought that they were just decorations. However, after he saw Hua Yue slay the dragon, he had realized that they were all real weapons. Actually, this room was the largest and the most powerful arsenal in town. I remember that there is a special way to open the box, Hua Yue put the heavy box onto the table, then glanced at the swords. She took down a sword from the wall which was about 1 meter long with a blue-colored sword handle and a shining light gold-colored sword blade. The sword was engraved with a series of ancient and mysterious runes on its blade. Its handle was decorated with a floriated blue cross. At the crisscrossed part of the sword handle and the sword blade, there was a valuable ruby inlaid into the center. The person who holds this sword will be an immortal king. The person who holds this sword must not break the knight's precepts. I will fight for justice. Hua Yue read the runic letters on the sword blade, then gently sliced her finger with the sword. In the name of my sky-flying bloodline, I witness this oath. The bright red blood flowed out from the wound and flowed along Hua Yue's fingers, dropping onto the sacred steel sword blade. Instantly, holy golden light spread out quickly from the sword blade. Cut open the steel. Hua Yue activated the sword, then resolutely brandished the sword, chopping the sealed black box. The black box issued out a horrible scream. At that moment, it looked like a living being trying to escape away from the sacred steel sword. It's no use. You're dead. Hua Yue coldly brandished the sword again. This time, the black box was cut into 2 pieces from its middle part. A gorgeous maid's black uniform drifted down from the broken black box, then was suspended in midair. Anyone could see that this maid's black uniform was unusual. She even felt terrible bloodlust from the maid's uniform. Oh, is it the legendary killing princess's maid uniform? Hua Yue was also shocked after she saw the maid's uniform. Killing princess? She felt his back grow cold. His sense of foreboding was growing stronger and stronger. Well, in history, the killing princess was one of the top 3 great sword maids. In her time, she was the most powerful great sword maid without any rivals. Although it's said that she is one of the top 3 great sword maids, however, the 3 maids didn't live in the same period. Therefore, many people think that she is actually the strongest sword maid. The sword skill she was good at was a dark-type sword skill was called Infinite Killing, and this sword skill was famous due to its 2 properties, high-speed movement and fatal hit. She was an expert at killing. I am afraid that the demons she'd killed were even more than the total population of the whole Sky Sword God's domain. If it wasn't because the other 2 maids had an extraordinary military record on many battlefields, she would have been recognized as the #1 great sword maid. Before she became a great sword maid, she was an exiled princess whose country had been occupied by demons. After she became a great sword maid, she killed almost all the demons in her country. It's said that at that time, the moon was dyed red due to too many deaths. The more details Hua Yue spoke of, the more surprised she felt about this gorgeous maid's black uniform. Hua Yue, where did you get this terrible legacy? The exiled princess, the killing maid, the maid's deep black uniform, the legacy of a great sword maid. Even in the entire Sky Sword God's domain, the maid's uniform legacy was a high-level treasure. Why was this kind of thing buried under the willow tree of your house? She still remembered that the willow tree had been planted by Hua Yue and him when they were young. Well, very well. Although it's not the #1 maid's uniform Auroral Morningstar, nor the #2 maid's uniform Divine Shield, but this #3 maid's uniform Killing Princesses is fine too. Moreover, this maid's black uniform is recognized as the most beautiful uniform amongst all the great sword maids' legacies. Little she, you're so lucky. Hua Yue needed the maid's uniform and smiled at Shi. Wait a minute, I don't feel lucky at all. The killing princess and the great sword maids. Weren't they all female? Shi never thought that someday he would be forced to wear a dress. Hua Yue, what the hell was your brain thinking up? Don't worry about the size. I heard that the size of great sword maid's uniform could be adjusted automatically according to the figure of the user. Besides, it seems like the killing princess was a flat-chested girl. You won't even have to make a lot of adjustments to get into the dress. Hua Yue held the gorgeous maid's black uniform in her hands, approaching Shi step by step. Chapter 68, The Killing Princess. No, Hua Yue. Shi still resisted. He didn't want to put on such a shameful maid's uniform at all. Little she, don't worry, because you will soon get used to wearing it. Didn't we often play the game Playhouse when we were children? At that time, you had worn my wedding dress, which I had specially ordered from Western God's domain for you, Hua Yue said with a happy expression. If she dressed her childhood sweetheart up as a girl, in that case, none of those bitches would notice him. Besides, Yunxi was really cute when he wore dresses. One stone and two birds. What a wonderful plan it was. No, don't mention it. Speaking of that experience, Yunxi didn't even want to remember a bit of it. At that time, he had been too young and naive, and Hua Yue had often cheated him into doing many shameful things. When he was a child, the townspeople had even selected him as the cutest girl suitable for wearing a wedding dress. That was his most painful dark history. Yunxi had tried his best to forget it. If Hua Yue hadn't mentioned it, Yunxi would absolutely not have recalled that dark history again. Well, everything is ready. Little Shi, are you ready to put on the Killing Princess's battle dress? It is made of precious clothes and could offer both great attack power and defense. Besides, it can even repair itself automatically. Only the selected Greatsword Maid can equip this sacred armor. Even in the whole history of Greatsword Maids, this maid's black uniform was the most powerful and unique battle dress. Hua Yue didn't give Yunxi any chance to escape. She cut her finger again. Her red blood fell down, dropping onto the Killing Princess's battle dress. Hua Yue recited the oath to start the inheritance ceremony. In the past, in the Great Land, there were many girls, fighting for their countries and worlds. They offered their lives as a sacrifice, merging with the ancient monster, forging the most powerful greatswords. They swore to the old gods. They stepped onto the battlefield. They were beloved by God. They were God's messengers. They sacrificed themselves to fight. They were so powerful and beautiful. Therefore, they were called Greatsword Maids by people. In the name of my sky-flying bloodline, I witnessed the Killing Princess's inheritance ceremony. No. Yunxi wanted to cry out as he saw the maid's uniform flying to him, having an extremely bad feeling in his heart. The maid's black uniform was originally emanating an evil feeling. However, at this time, the evil feeling had disappeared. The uniform turned into countless black silk threads emitting golden light, then it wrapped Yunxi's whole body. Gender verifying. Pass through. Talent verifying. Pass through. Adaptability with dark-type power. Pass through. Thou. Behold. Yunxi uncontrollably raised his head and saw a big reddish-black sword. When you look long into the killing itself, the killing looks into you. The center of the sword was hollowed out. A disturbing bloody scent was flowing out from there. The sword blade had an awful black serrated shape, and the handle of the sword was studded with a red gem that was large as a fist. In addition to it, there were 8 small rhombic gems surrounding this gem, which shone with strange but also splendid lights. The name of the sword, Killing Princess. Up until the last holder's death it had killed 135,610,000 living beings, and was named as Killing Princesses. It's the most ferocious demon sword amongst all the great swords forged for Maid of Claymore. The person who inherits this sword slaughter countless beings. That's the price for obtaining this power. Strange, Yunxi smoothly passed through the Killing Princess's inheritance ceremony. However, Hua Yue showed an unbelievable look on her face. Why could Yunxi pass through the Killing Princess's inheritance ceremony so simply? At first, she was going to use her sky-flying bloodline to force the Killing Princess's dress to accept Yunxi. After all, Yunyi was a boy. It was impossible that the Greatsword Maid's legacy would recognize him so easily. Greatsword Maid. As the name suggested, only a girl who proved her purity, loyalty, and self-dedication could undertake this career. No, I don't accept it. As if seeing his worst nightmare about to come true, Yunxi decisively rejected the Killing Princess's legacy. Unfortunately, it was too late. The inheritance ceremony is completed. As one of the strongest Greatsword Maid legacies, the Killing Princess's dress and her magic sword were seemingly very pleased with Yunxi. They ignored his words and directly finished the last step. Countless black silk threads surrounded Yunxi, then instantly dismantled his shabby clothes. At the same time, it began to adjust its own size. Whoa! Wow, wow, wow! Hua Yue covered her eyes with her 2 hands, then opened her eyes wide, peeping at Yunxi through her fingers. Finally, Hua Yue saw a pretty girl standing in front of her. Even though she knew the girl was Yunxi, she still couldn't believe that the beautiful girl was her childhood sweetheart. The girl was wearing a gorgeous black ceremonial dress. The ceremonial dress was so beautiful and as astonishing as a princess's dress, which was far beyond the concept of a common maid outfit. Her hair was black. Her delicate skin looked like first-rate silk. Her appearance and behavior were luminous with a kind of gentle grace. Due to nervousness and embarrassment, her lovely face looked so cute as if she was an angel emerging from a painting. Even her chest, which at first was certainly flat like nothing, was also uplifted a bit, as if it was a tradition from the previous killing princess. 4 gold-red gems were studded on her slender waist, then matched with the rosette upon her bosom and the ribbons beside her waist. If she wasn't wearing the lace head dress, no one would connect the ceremonial dress with a maid's. What was even more amazing was that the dress could perfectly enhance her temperament and appearance. At least, when Yunxi surprisedly gazed at his black gloves, and the absolute field between the black silk stockings and the corner of his skirt, he wondered how it was possible that this was his body. The smooth, tender, snow-white skin. Who was this person? No. It was a foul, it was a lie. Yunxi could affirm that he himself had never had such snow-white, flawless skin before. Not only his skin, but even his bones and height seemed to have been modified, so that his body ratio looked more perfect. The killing princess dress was like a magic pen, completely hiding Yunxi's masculinity, leaving only a dazzling, enchanted, gorgeous, and perfect young girl in the world. Black and white intertwined, weaving a new Yunxi, who Hua Yue had never seen before. Now, even Hua Yue herself was fascinated by Yunxi's appearance. Oh, her Yunxi sure was suitable for women's dresses. She didn't need to worry about anything now. Chapter 69, Helpless Choice Little She, how is it? Do you think that it's suitable? Hua Yue circled around Yunxi, clicking her tongue in wonder. Yunxi opened his mouth. He wanted to say no. Of course, this was not the answer. The killing princess's maid's black uniform looked perfect on his body. Even the smallest part of the uniform was suitable for his body, as if it was tailor-made for him. Yunxi wanted to say something, but suddenly found that his voice had changed. Where did his male voice go? What the hell was this euphonious voice now? Did the killing princess's maid's black uniform even disguise his voice? Don't worry. It's normal to be a little uncomfortable at first. After all, it's the Greatsword maid's legacy. Hua Yue patted Yunxi's shoulder. She looked quite pleased with Yunxi's current appearance. Cough. What happened to my voice? Yunxi heard his own voice, feeling that his life had taken a wrong direction. No problem, it's all because of the Greatsword maid's legacy. Hua Yue gazed at Yunxi's chest, then said, Greatsword maid is a restricted high-level career in Western God's domain. Whichever it is, voice or appearance, its owner must be at the first level. The people who are unqualified can never be a Greatsword maid. Little She, you are very suitable for this career. Just keep practicing. I was a man. Why did I have to be a Greatsword maid? Yunxi looked at his mischievous childhood sweetheart, crying in his heart. Besides, in this case, you can always stay together with me. Don't you want to stay with me? Hua Yue played cute. Her beautiful eyes gazed at Yunxi with expectation. I don't want to separate from you. I don't want to see any bitches taking you away, just like they did in the dream. Even though I know I am acting recklessly, I still want to keep you by my side. Originally, she had prepared to pay a lot for this, because she was going to distort the Greatsword maid's legacy. Even if she had sky-flying bloodline, she still had to pay a heavy price. After all, that was a crime against morality. It was all about love. She liked Yunxi. She wanted to stay with Yunxi forever. She couldn't stand the possibility that they would live far apart from each other. She was jealous of him and worried about him, so she committed this crime. Hua Yue, Yunxi lapsed into silence. Even if she had made 10,000 mistakes, the glory shining in her eyes made her hard to refuse her. Hua Yue's dedicated love was too bright, making him feel ashamed for his plan of escaping this domain. Did he really have to stay with Hua Yue? But the key issue was that there was a terrible apostle searching him in the whole Sky Sword God's domain. Can this maid's black uniform really hide my identity? For Yunxi, this was a vital question that had a bearing on his own life. This is absolutely no problem. Even though in the eyes of 7th rank people, your current appearance is absolutely a cute girl, said Hua Yue. The Greatsword Maid's legacy is more incredible than your imagination, since you've passed the test of the Killing Princess's legacy. Speaking of which, Hua Yue showed a puzzled expression, then kept saying, in that case, no one could discover your true identity through your appearance and behavior. Hua Yue looked a little shy. In fact, even I myself can't identify your real identity now. Your disguise is absolutely perfect. As long as you don't take off the Killing Princess's dress, no one can discover your true gender and identity. So, this dress could help him escape from the apostles' searching? After hearing Hua Yue's promise, Yunxi's eyes brightened up. This may be a solution. Rather than escape to some remote and unknown sword domain, maybe it was a better choice to hide his identity by wearing the Greatsword Maid's uniform. If he chose this way, as long as he didn't reveal his identity, his appearance should perfectly cheat anyone's eyes. If he chose to escape, there was actually a great chance of being caught by the nameless apostle. It should be regarded as his last choice. Now, there was another choice in front of him, even if the choice was so shameful. His childhood sweetheart even had the top-level legacy of Western God's domain. What exactly was her true identity? Oh, right. Since you're going to hide your identity, why don't you change your name too? Yunxi, Little Shi. Hua Yue began to think of a decent, feminine name for Yunxi. How about this name? You can still call me Little Shi as my nickname, Yunxi sighed, finally accepting his destiny of wearing the Killing Princess's dress. His dark history was enacted all over again. It was still the same girl who forced him to wear women's dresses. Sometimes, history was surprisingly similar. It sounds good. Little Shi, from now on, you're my Greatsword Maid. The name makes me think of Snow White Blossom. Hua Yue excitedly looked at Yunxi, who looked so cute while wearing the maid's black uniform. Hua Yue, so you had such a poor taste. Yunxi found that Hua Yue was excitedly looking at him, but that only made him feel that his future was a dark one. He had no interest in wearing women's dresses. It was better to say that he resolutely objected to wearing them. He didn't even want to remember his dark history of being forced to wear the wedding dress. However, this was the only option he could choose. About his plan of escaping from this domain, Hua Yue was gazing at him. How would it be possible that he could successfully escape her eyes? As a result, he finally had to be disguised as a maid. Well, Little Shi, it's time to take the Sword Palace entrance test. Believe me, you will be a blockbuster. Don't worry about those stupid aristocratic children. How could they be in the same class as you? You're the Greatsword Maid chosen by the Killing Princess's legacy. Just go ahead and beat all of them down. Hua Yue puffed out her small chest and proudly looked at her childhood sweetheart. No, I don't want to be a blockbuster at all. To be seen by all the townspeople, wearing the maid's uniform and taking part in the Sword Palace entrance test. What a terrible torture it was. For the first time in his life, Yunxi doubted whether he was cursed by his fate. The stars, please tell me that this was just a dream. After I wake up, everything would return to normal. Why was his childhood sweetheart so mischievous? What exactly happened to her and encouraged her to make such a desperate decision? Chapter 70. Step forward hand in hand in the bright sunshine. Hua Yue was running. She was running together with her beloved boy on the familiar street. The world was so beautiful. The sunlight was shining so brightly. To Hua Yue, this was no doubt one of the most memorable days in her life. Hua Yue, are you going to go to the Sword Palace? Yes, uncle. I'm ready to go. Hua Yue waved her hand with a smile. She said goodbye to everyone living in the town, expressing her thanks to them. The world took on a brand new appearance in her eyes. According to her family's schedule, she accepted the Sword Palace's invitation. She was going to join the Sword Palace, staying there till she reached the hero rank. At first, She was planning to wait for 2 years. She wanted to return to town after she had become more beautiful and powerful, and then she could take Yunxi away. But now, she didn't need to wait any longer because her childhood sweetheart was staying with her. They would undoubtedly walk side by side on the road called life. Everyone, I promise that I will back someday. Hua Yue said goodbye to the townspeople. Although Yunxi looked embarrassed and reluctant, but she still held his hand tightly. Little Hua Yue, you can come back at any time. We won't forget you. These uncles and the aunts had all seen her grow up. They softly smiled, seeing the best genius of the town off. Hua Yue, I love you. Please marry me. Hua Yue. They were the town's young boys who all secretly loved Hua Yue. However, they had no confidence that they would pass the Sword Palace's entrance test, so they had to sadly say goodbye to the girl they loved. Sorry, but my whole heart belongs to little she. Goodbye, everyone. Please give us your blessing. Hua Yue held Yunxi's hand, running on the familiar street. She was using this method to commemorate her youth that was fading away. That's strange. Who's that girl? I have never seen that girl before. Is she Hua Yue's relative? Is that a maid's uniform? But she looked like a princess. Hua Yue was from Western God's domain. She must be one of her friends. Looking at Hua Yue and Yunxi, the townspeople talked about the unknown girl with each other. However, none of them realized that the beautiful girl wearing the gorgeous maid's black uniform was the baker shop's young boy, Yunxi. Outside the town by the riverbank, there were nearly 1,000 people who had come from all the districts in White Lotus Sword Domain. Everyone, shout with me. There were about 300 people all shouting slogans together. Child Yunhe, Chidal Sai Nyan, Child San Quan, win instant success, overcome all the opponents, realize the dream. It went without saying that they were the 3 child servants, belonging to the noble family's camp. Child Snake Bones, you're the best. Child Tian Cheng, do you best in the tests. Several families also hired people to encourage their families' participants. Compared to these noble families, the civilian people's camp was a little bit quiet and few in number. They were all common people, struggling to practice themselves so that they could take part in the test. In fact, if only the talent was involved in, the civilian people's camp wasn't inferior than the noble family's camp. However, they lacked outfits, weapons and educations. Most of the civilian people were already 18 years old, because they had to dig out all their potentialities so that they could compete with the noble family's children. It was almost an impossible goal to achieve the 3rd rank before 18 years old for civilian people. They're just as usual. Still so noisy, a 2nd rank swordman, who was wearing cloth armor and had 3 scars on his face, said and looked at the noble family's camp in envy. We don't compete with them. We compete with each other. Another 2nd rank swordman shrugged his shoulders. As the people who didn't have too many resources but still reached the 2nd rank before 18 years old, only they knew what a high price they had paid for this. Humph. These noble kids are too mollycoddled. If they were on battlefield, they would die before they realized it. Several 1st rank swordmen looked at these noble families' people with jealousy. They all wore the same clothes and had similar behaviors. Obviously, they were the civilian people who once joined the army. Noble and civilian had naturally opposition, because the Sword Palace only recruited a certain number of new disciples. But every time, most of the quota was occupied by the noble family's children. Although the Sword Palace didn't choose its disciples' identity, race, or class, but the noble families naturally occupied the vantage point on cultivating their children. It was not easy for civilian people to win them. Sigh. Stop it. My cousin is in the Palace of Heaven's Road. If I can't pass through the Sword Palace's test, I will go to there to take their test. After hearing his words, many civilian people sighed. Only the children between 16 to 18 years old could take part in the Sword Palace's entrance test. If you were beyond the age limit, you wouldn't have any chance. Most of the civilian people were already 18 years old. Therefore, they may have to take part in other sects' tests if these noble children occupied their last chance. Sword was the most holy and important thing in the whole Sky Sword God's domain. All the young people wanted to be admitted into the Sword Palace. Only the swordmen who had entered the Sword Palace had confidence to feel proud for themselves. Even their parents would rush about telling the good news to everyone they met. You could even say that only after you entered the Sword Palace, you finally could begin to practice the true sword skills and walked on the road leading to the zenith. This time, whichever their identity was, noble family's kid or civilian swordman, they were here for only one goal: join the Sword Palace. This was what Yunshi saw after he arrived at the examination area. Little she, I have received the Sword Palace's invitation, so I don't need to take part in the test. I will watch your fight on the platform. Hua Yue smiled and shook Yunshi's hands, then ran towards the Sword Palace's camp. Sigh. Yunshi was still in a daze. He looked around for a while, then walked to the civilian people's camp. He didn't find that whether the noble family's camp or the civilian people's camp, when they saw his movement, they were all dumbfounded. Especially after he walked to the civilian people's camp, the noble family's people gazed at him with confusion and surprise. The civilian swordmen also looked surprised. The mysterious girl wearing a gorgeous maid's uniform was noticeably not the Sky Sword God's domain's local resident. After the girl walked to them, they were all flabbergasted. Chapter 71. Yunshi was surrounded. Lady? You're going the wrong way. Yeah. This is the civilian people's camp, but you look like a girl of nobility from Western God's domain. Be beautiful. The swordsmen of the civilian people's camp were so nervous that they didn't even know how to speak. Heaven pities and protects us. How could they have had a chance to see a lady from Western God's domain before? Besides, the gap between them was too far. Even any of the gems on Yunshi's maid's black uniform was more expensive than their total assets. They couldn't even calculate the exact value of the maid's uniform. Dear lady, you should come here. Which family are you from? I'm sorry for we can't do much for you in this situation, but can I have the honor to serve you? What a beautiful girl. I never thought that I would meet such a beauty. Immediately, several servants ran to Yunshi from the noble family's camp. They flattered Yunshi and invited him to go to their camp. No, thank you, but I belong here. Yunshi looked around with amazement. He was born in the small town. Just a week ago, he was still selling bread in his shop. If he didn't come here, then where would he go? Obviously, Yunshi hadn't realized what a great change had happened to him. But, how can you be a civilian? Several second-rank swordsmen twisted the corners of their mouths. Finally, they opened their mouths to ask Yunshi with doubt. The girl had a soft, delicate body and attractive appearance. Besides, her gorgeous dress looked so unusual. How could a civilian have enough money to buy that? Well, in fact, I was born in this small town, but just returned here a few days ago. I'm just a very ordinary maid. Yunshi pretended that he was ordinary, then naturally walked to the civilian people's camp. Shuffle. Immediately, an empty area appeared in the civilian people's camp. Even the several strongest second-rank swordsmen also followed the crowd, moving away from Yunshi. Impossible. There couldn't be a civilian like this girl in the world. This girl was too beautiful, like an elf coming from the tales. Was she really born in the small town? But she did have pure black hair, like a perfect doll. The people looked at Yunshi and sighed with emotion, although Yunshi still didn't know how remarkable he had become. Hello, everyone. I'm Mai, a maid, and one of the examinees of the Sword Palace's entrance test. Look, I also use sword. Yunshi pointed at the steel sword at his waist, which Hua Yue had prepared for him not long ago. Examinee? You? Oh, so you're going to take part in the test. Maid? Why haven't I seen any maid like you before? After Yunshi said his name, the civilian people around him looked a little relieved. However, none of them believed that such a beautiful girl wearing a Western-style dress was actually a civilian. They were civilians. They knew the difference. Her skin looked like fresh snow, her face looked delicate, her body looked slender, and her maid's black uniform looked pretty on her body. Many noble families' maids were born in common families, but how could it be possible that they had such an attractive temperament and charm? No, not to mention the civilian people's camp, even the noble family's camp's people hadn't seen any maids like Yunshi before. She is sparkling. She is perfect. I had never thought that a maid could be so charming. Child Yun, his eyes brightened up. Even though he was born into one of the oldest family in White Lotus Sword Domain, he had never seen such a maid. I guess she is a royal maid. She can't be an ordinary person. She must have been trained since her childhood and has special maid-type skills, said Child Sign-Yan. A part of his bloodline was from Western God's domain, so his words were credible. Of course. She can't be a civilian, said Child San Quan. He waved his fan's sword and remembered something. Obviously, no matter it was the noble family's camp or the civilian people's camp, they both agreed that Yun she wasn't an ordinary person. Well, don't pay that much attention to me. I'm just an ordinary examinee, Yun she said. He was at a loss what to do because so many people were gazing at him. The people around Yun she felt surprised, excited, and enchanted. They tried to show their best in front of him. Brotherly, I have just learnt several new sword skills. Do you mind if you practice with me? Well, what a coincidence. I feel that my sword's calling me. It's time to show my best sword skill. Look. My passion is burning. Let's have a warm-up practice before the formal test start. In the twinkling of an eye, a series of battles had erupted around Yun Shi. None of the Sword Palace's entrance test candidates were over 18 years old. They were young and aggressive. After seeing Yun Shi's maid's black uniform and his shy look, none of them could discipline themselves any longer. Even several of the most matured candidates couldn't stop their hearts from beating violently. As the poem said, that mild-mannered good girl, awake, asleep, I search for her. If they missed this chance, they would never meet such a beauty again. Her deer-like innocent eyes had captured many people's hearts. After seeing the several strongest swordsmen fight each other for him, Yun Shi was dumbfounded. What was wrong with the world? Why? He had just changed his clothes to the maid's black uniform. Why did everything start to go wrong after that? Come here. Don't mind these bad guys, come here. As Yun Shi felt distressed, the female swordsman's camp sent him an invitation. Different gods' domains had the same aesthetic standards. Especially if it related to beautiful girls like Yun Shi, who had pure black hair and wore an exotic maid's black uniform. Even though they were girls, but they had also been captivated by Yun Shi's beauty. Your maid's uniform is so cute. I think it is worth half of the small town. Which family are you from? Or are you a royal maid? My. It's a nice name. Were you born in Eastern God's domain? The female swordsman's camp had dozens of girls. They immediately surrounded Yun Shi, didn't give the male swordsman a chance to get close to him. I'm looking at these young girls. Yun Shi suddenly felt nervous. Oh, gosh, I have never been surrounded by so many girls before. Why did they look so excited? And their eyes also looked feverish, even making him feel dangerous. He had only put on the maid's uniform. He was still male 100%. Chapter 72, Lucky Black Hair NE, what perfume are you using? It smells good. Tell me. No matter how expensive it is, I will save money to buy it. No, that thing doesn't exist. I have never used any perfume in my life. Who made this maid's uniform for you? Is he an artistic master in Western God's domain? Why can't I identify the uniform's materials? Tell me who. Unfortunately, I don't know whose masterpiece it is. Hua Yue said that it was the Greatsword maid's legacy. Perhaps it really has an unusual origin. Your skin is so soft. How did you nourish your skin? Look, my skin is so rough. Sigh, why is the gap between different people so wide? Sorry. I don't know why my skin suddenly becomes snow white. I remember when I practiced the limit practice, my skin had been left with many scars. Girls really easily get familiar with one another. As long as they accepted you, they would treat you well with all their hearts. At first, as an outsider from Western God's domain, they wouldn't accept him so easily. However, it looked like the killing princess's maid's uniform had natural glamour. No matter what your race, gender, or identity was, no one could resist it. At first, the female candidates were also divided into two camps just like the male candidates. However, Mai was like a panacea. After she came, The two female camps naturally combined into one. Every female liked beautiful things. After seeing the shy and nervous Yunxi, their maternal instinct was aroused. Therefore, after Yunxi joined them, the two female camps stopped opposing each other, and he also naturally became the center of their attention. He did nothing, but naturally attracted everyone's attention. After wearing the Killing Princess's maid's black uniform, he had become so cute and eye-catching. Oh, gosh, were girls really such noisy creatures? Yun 11 was in a daze as he looked at the several female swordsmen surrounding him and being as noisy as thousands of ducks. It wasn't at all as he had imagined. He had thought that girls would be more gentle, soft, and sweet like white sugar. Well, that was excluding Hua Yue. After all, she was his childhood sweetheart that could slay a dragon alone. My, which nearby town were you born in? You must be tired after traveling from Western God's domain. Come here. There is a chair. She felt dizzy. He hadn't said anything. The girls had clustered around him and let him sit on a green flower chair, which were wrapped in beautiful roses. My, how old are you? 16 years old. After sitting down, She finally made some time to reorganize his thoughts. It looked like he was welcomed by both the noble girls and civilian girls. How about the test? Do you think you will be admitted to the Sword Palace? Even if you can't pass through the Sword Palace's test, that's not a problem. My family is related to the Heaven's Road Palace. How about going to join their entrance test? Compared to males, we female swordsmen are naturally less favored towards practicing sword skills. If you can't get into the Sword Palace, then the Heaven's Road Palace is also a good choice. Yes, this was a fact in the entire Sky Sword God's domain, especially for mortals where males had a natural advantage in practicing sword skills. Whether it was strength, speed, or explosiveness, in most cases, males were better than females. Female swordsmen could only focus on practicing their speed and flexibility. In the past, She felt that Hua Yue was the perfect sample of female swordsman. She could even defeat the 5 tiger generals by using her flying swallow sword. That was perfect proof. Of course, She had known that Hua Yue couldn't be simply described as a girl who has amazing flexibility. She had gone far beyond the realm a mortal could reach. She slayed the male fiery dragon and fought against Red Lotus Holy Virgin face to face, so that couldn't be. I should have no problems. She took a deep breath, then organized his thoughts, picking suitable words, because I have reached the 2nd rank now. The female swordsmen lapsed into silence for a while, then they exclaimed at the same time. The 2nd rank? My, are you joking? You're already a 2nd rank swordsman? The world really has another genius like Hua Yue. Oh, gosh. My, how did you do that? You're even stronger than some generals. You're so strong, and you have such delicate skin and a slender body. Woo woo woo, I also practiced very hard, but why do I only have more muscles? Their exclamation wasn't without reason. A 2nd rank swordsman was already able to be an army's general. Even the strongest girl amongst them had just reached the peak of the 1st rank. It was not easy for females to improve themselves. Only a few female swordsmen could reach the 2nd rank before 18 years old. Hua Yue had already reached the 3rd rank and received the Sword Palace's invitation, but she was simply a monster-like genius in these girls' eyes. Monster-like. Hua Yue. As these girls opened their eyes wide and gazed at Yunxi also smiled bitterly and looked at them. Hua Yue wasn't even simply a 3rd rank female swordsman. If a person reached the 1st rank, that person was already able to be regarded as a genius. It was already very lucky if a small town produced a 1st rank swordsman every few decades. If a person reached the 2nd rank, that person was able to be a core member of the army and would be regarded as a prospective general. If a person reached the 3rd rank, for example, the 5 tiger generals, they were the top-level commanders in the army, and were also the top-level martial masters ordinary people could see. There were higher ranks, but to the people who lived in the sword handle area of the sword domain, that was beyond the limit they could reach. Therefore, as a 2nd rank swordsman, he had been regarded as a monster-like genius in their eyes. My, please do me a favor. Oh, me too. Oh, right. My, please grant my request. After realizing that Yunshi was probably the strongest person in the female swordsman camp, the noble girls and the civilian girls all put their palms together devoutly, praying to Yunshi. What? Yunshi was at a loss what to do after seeing their behavior. Was this some satanic ritual? Please, give me a lock of your hair. Me too. 1. I just need a lock of your hair. I will make it into a lucky charm. There was a tale in the whole Sky Sword God's domain. Before you took part in an exam, if you could obtain a black strand of hair from the strongest and most beautiful girl, then you could successfully pass through the exam. However, as mortals, most of the female swordsmen were not that strong and were still at the first rank when they took the test, therefore, most of the time, they couldn't find any people who fit the bill. However, now, Yunshi was the person who fit the bill in their eyes. The strongest second-rank female swordsman. The most beautiful girl. Besides, she had the most beautiful black, straight hair. Chapter 73, Cute Girls. Well. Alright, Yunshi had never heard about this tale. However, the girl's eager eyes were too much for him to take, even though he wasn't a real black-haired girl. Before he wore the maid's black uniform, he had common black, short hair. He didn't know what the Killing Princess's maid's uniform had done to him, making his hair suddenly grow down till his waist. Waist-length hair, flat chest, slender feet, and snow-white skin. Was this what the Killing Princess looked like when she was alive? In Yunshi's imagination, the exiled princess, the girl called Killing Princess, the girl who had beautiful black, long hair, was brandishing her giant demon sword fighting on one after another battlefield in that appearance in the past. Take this. Although Yunshi felt weird, he still plucked out a strand of hair and handed it over to the girl in front of him. He felt a slight pain. This meant that it wasn't a disguise, but real black, long hair. Did he really become a black-haired girl in other people's eyes? Even though he had seen his current appearance in Hua Yue's mirror, he had still thought that the doll-like, black-haired girl couldn't be real. Thank you. I will value it for a lifetime. The freckled girl held Yunshi's hair firmly. She looked pretty excited. It was easy to see that she wasn't born in a rich family. Her freckles made her feel inferior when faced with the noble girls. Yunshi's black hair brought out her confidence, making her hidden youthful dynamism burst out. Everyone could easily detect her change after she obtained Yunshi's hair. Without an inferiority complex and nervousness, she looked like a sunflower blossoming towards the sun, so bright and cheerful. The tale was true. The strongest female swordsman. The most beautiful black-haired girl. The girl who had both characteristics had incredible magic in her black hair. She could bring good luck. Me. I'm the second. No. It's me. I was here first. I have prepared to make the lucky charm. After seeing what change had manifested in the freckled girl, all the girls circled around Yunshi with excitement. There's no need to rush. I will give everyone my hair. Yunshi felt both funny and annoyed when he looked at the girls who wanted to obtain one of his hairs. It was just a fairy tale. Why are you so serious? Fortunately, there were only dozens of girls here. If everyone thought that his black hair contained magic and asked him for his hair, he was afraid that he would be bald. He didn't want to be bald at all. Yes. Everyone, please form a line and remember your number. Soon afterwards, some noble girls came out to keep the order. After all, they were good at dealing with these kind of situations. Their families had trained them from their childhood. If a girl didn't show enough talent, she couldn't take part in the Sword Palace's entrance test. The noble girls who lived comfortable, luxurious lives and only wanted to marry rich husbands wouldn't waste their time practicing sword skills. In order to take part in the test, although they were noble families' children, these noble girls also had put in great effort that was more than the civilian girls imagined. I'm the second. The second girl who obtained Yunshi's hair was a noble girl. She bit her fingers, cheering like a child who had obtained the most precious treasure in the world. I'm the third. The next girl was a noble girl too. She looked more restrained than the second girl, but she still couldn't hide her smile. Were girls the kind of creatures that liked lucky charms so much? Yunshi plucked his hair as he looked at the girls. Once again, he realized how different females and males were. That was just one strand of his hair. Why did they look so excited? Soon afterwards, Yunshi realized that not only the girls wanted his hair. What? They want my hair too? Looking at the servants coming from the noble family camp, Yunshi felt surprised. Yes. Child Yun, he wants your hair. He can pay any amount of money to you, said one of the servants. Wait, you can't keep everything for yourself. Child San Quan is also interested in your hair. Please sell 100 strands of your hair to me. Hey, I'm first. Dear miss, just state a price. Child Sign Yan will never make a counter-offer. Yunshi was at a loss at first. After a while, he took a deep breath with his fingers intertwined. Get out of here. No one wants your filthy money. How dare you ask for Mai's hair by using such a vulgar method? Is your master really educated? Child Yun, he is an idiot. The girls were angry. They scolded the servants till they escaped away. Puff. Yunshi let out a sigh of relief. He was going to get angry, but the girls had helped him refuse the servants. He looked at the female swordsman with gratitude. Don't worry, Mai. You have our backing. Humph. 3 childs. But our Mai is not inferior to them. I heard a rumor that Child San Quan was an illegitimate child. Speaking of Child Yun He, I heard that he wasn't weaned till 12 years old. He had a team of wet nurses. Child Sign Yan needs to eat 10 pounds of beef every day. Tut, it's no wonder that he is stupid like a cow. The girls talked about the 3 child's shameful past one after another. They didn't even forget to laugh at the dark history in their childhoods. Thank you. Yunshi looked at the girls around him. According to the black strands of hair he had presented to them, there were a total of 37 girls. Because the entrance test was held by the twin witches, the test was extremely difficult. The people who hadn't reached any rank had almost all given up. Compared to the male camp, which had hundreds of people, the 37 girls were the most outstanding girls in the whole White Lotus Sword domain. Most of them came from faraway areas. They had practiced their sword skills from their childhoods, so they finally had the chance to take part in the test. Most of the girls were still at the first rank, but they had courage and confidence. Whichever they were, noble girls or civilian girls, they had the same goal. They were cute, hardworking, innocent, and courageous. They were stronger than Yunshi imagined. Girls were always so attractive and incredible. Chapter 74. Bad feeling when Yunshi was surrounded by the girl swordsmen. Hua Yue and Red Lotus were looking at each other in a strange atmosphere. So, you're Hua Yue? Red Lotus frowned as she looked at the genius girl who had been received by the Sword Palace. At first, Hua Yue subconsciously tightened up her toes, then she immediately realized it and loosened her toes. Have we seen each other before? The 2 people asked the same question at the same time. Gee, are you also having this feeling? You too. They looked at each other in confusion. Who? I'm so sleepy. Sister, good morning. Beside Red Lotus, White Lotus reluctantly opened her eyes. That's weird. Hua Yue tried her best to remember when and where had she seen the twin sisters. Obviously, she couldn't remember anything. Even in Western God's domain, the twin witches were famous. They were known as the best geniuses in the last hundreds of years. However, due to their witch legacy, they had never left White Lotus Sword domain. Therefore, before today, Hua Yue had only heard about their names, but had never seen them personally. Similarly, Red Lotus knew about Hua Yue's identity. She knew that Hua Yue was a sword skill genius. However, she was sure that she had never seen Hua Yue before. Is this the so-called feel like old friends at the first meeting? Red Lotus looked at Hua Yue, but still felt that something was wrong. I don't think so. Hua Yue clenched her fist. That feeling was too weird. This was their first meeting, but she had a feeling that the twin witches were enemies. Was she such a narrow-minded girl? No. That was not true. Hua Yue shook her head. It was wrong to hate people she had just met. I'm Hua Yue, the student who will join the Sword Palace. Hua Yue composed her emotions and organized her thoughts, then smiled at the twin witches. I'm Red Lotus, the Sword Palace's witch. Similarly, Red Lotus tried to forget the uneasy feeling, then showed a smile too. I'm White Lotus. I'm also the Sword Palace's witch. White Lotus gently looked at Hua Yue. The ring of star and moon was shining on her head. They look pretty gentle. Why am I still feeling that they are enemies? After seeing the famous twin witches, Hua Yue found that they were just like what the rumor said. They both had great power and amazing personal charm. The older sister, Red Lotus, was confident and deliberate. She was a natural leader that could deal with any tough matter. When they talked about sword skills, they appreciated each other, because they both were great geniuses and had many common interests. The younger sister White Lotus was somehow logy. She often suddenly giggled alone. However, she had an innocent heart and was pure like a crystal, just like what her name implied. The mighty older sister and the attractive younger sister. They were a pair of perfect twin sisters. When they held each other's hand, even Hua Yue could feel their fathomless power. They were not overrated. On the contrary, the external world underestimated them too much. They had a limitless, bright future. Hey, White Lotus was immersed in her own inner world as she touched the star and moon ring. She wasn't listening to Hua Yue and Red Lotus's sword skill discussion at all. Sorry, my sister often behaves like that. Red Lotus embarrassedly looked at her sister, who was immersed in her fantasy. What a terrible dream it was. Last night, White Lotus and her had the same nightmare again. Her sister lost her head over that fictitious prince again. She couldn't remember the details, but in the dream, that damned prince controlled a fire-breathing dragon to challenge her. Then he took the opportunity to seduce her innocent sister, making her fall in love again. You damned prince, don't let me see you again. The next time, I will tear you into 10,000 pieces. Oh, the ring is really beautiful. Hua Yue didn't know of the reason, but when she looked at White Lotus's star and moon ring, for the first time in her life, she felt an intense desire, as if there was a sound roaring in her heart announcing that treasure should belong to me. That is too weird. What is happening to me? Why did I suddenly feel that the twin witches were enemies? Now, I myself want to steal the younger sister's ornament. Hua Yue, you are not an avaricious dragon. No. I must smile. The twin witches are nice people, and they have no contradiction. Besides, the older sister is a really good conversation partner. Hua Yue, you can't be that narrow-minded. You can't be defeated by your inexplicable desire. All right. It's time to start the Sword Palace's entrance test. Let's go hold the test. In fact, the entrance test is organized specially for you. Why did so many people hear the rumor and come here? I heard that there were even several third-rank swordsmen. Speaking of the several third-rank swordsmen, Red Lotus did not look very happy. Except for the weird feeling when they first met, Red Lotus quickly accepted Hua Yue and admitted her power. Hua Yue deserved to have the legendary bloodline. Her talent was far beyond her contemporaries. It wasn't difficult for her to reach the hero rank. It was the Sword Palace's honor to get a genius like Hua Yue. She welcomed Hua Yue to go to the Sword Palace. Of course, the most important reason was, Hua Yue was a girl. She wouldn't become a threat. If she was male, Red Lotus would absolutely not allow her to get so close to White Lotus. Let's go. I can tell you that you will see a surprise in the test. After the weird feeling disappeared, Hua Yue also quickly accepted Red Lotus as her friend. Geniuses always easily got closer to each other. Red Lotus and Hua Yue were two geniuses at the same level. It was hard for them to see another genius like themselves, so they immediately became friends. Prince. Thank you. We will never separate from each other. At this moment, only White Lotus could see that the ring of star and moon was shining with bright lights. The gold-red light of the sun. The silver-white light of the moon. The colorful lights of the stars. The primal fire was burning inside the ring of star and moon. It illuminated White Lotus's crystal pupils, reflecting the prince's figure inside her eyes. At this moment, her prince was in front of her, so close that she could nearly touch him. Even though you have changed your appearance, pretended to be another person, you're still my prince. Can you hear my voice? Can you see my eyes? My, prince. Yun. She suddenly had a chill. He felt his back grow cold as if he was a prey, and now, the hunter had found him. Chapter 75, Xiao Cao, Little Grass. Therefore, the Sword Palace's entrance test begins now. On the platform, the several sword skill tutors announced. The entrance test, which was held by the twin witches personally and had gathered almost all the young people of the right age, finally started. The selection method was actual combat. Nothing could be more suitable than this method to show the geniuses' actual combat power. The candidates chose their opponents by drawing straws. Countless white light leaves flew out from the twin witches' position, dropping like feathers onto all the young candidates' heads. They were just the right amount for every candidate. The first exam area, number 3 vs number 17. The second exam area, number 7 vs number 35. The third exam area, number 10 vs number 51. The fourth exam area, number 31 versus number 75. The drawing straws were random. The people who had been called appeared on the stage one by one. The stage was nearly 30 square meters, its edge surrounded by hazy light. That was the magical ward made by the twin witches personally, which meant that after you appeared on the stage, unless you admitted your defeat or were defeated, there weren't any other choices. Win, win, and win, till you become the last winner. This was the rule of the Sword Palace's entrance test. However, if the loser showed enough talent in the fight, the person still had a chance to be admitted into the Sword Palace. After all, only the twin witches could decide if the candidates were entitled to pass through the test. In the other areas of White Lotus Sword Domain, there were many similar tests being held. However, all the noble families only paid attention to this unheralded small town, because the people who held the test were the future twin masters of White Lotus Sword Domain, the twin witches. Even though they didn't really show their faces in front of the public, however, the truth that the future masters of White Lotus Sword Domain were looking at them was already making the candidates get excited. For this day, they had wasted many thoughts to arm themselves to the teeth. As future elites coming from noble families, they believed that they would become the winners of their generation. However, the next development was out of everyone's expectation. In the first exam area, the first battle was ongoing. One of the combatants was a noble family's child. His name was Lin Feng. Although his fame was inferior to the three childs, he was one of the top 10 swordsmen amongst all the noble family's candidates. He was good at fierce wind sword skill. He was a real elite. His Lin family's force was all over the whole Eastern God's domain. Not only in Sky Sword God's domain, they were also famous in other gods' domains. Although his family was just a branch of Lin family in White Lotus Sword Domain. However, he had reached the second rank at the age of 17, which meant that his family training was successful. He was at the second rank, and his opponent was just at the first rank. In any circumstances, he should have been able to win the battle with an overwhelming advantage. His goal wasn't just passing through the first round, but to become one of the top 16. His final goal was squeezing into the queue of top 8. However, he faced a wall. A desperate wailing wall. Why is your sword so nimble? Why are your actions so skillful? Don't get me wrong, you're just a village girl. Lin Feng's opponent was the girl who had received the black-haired maid's first strand of hair. Even she herself didn't know her own name. The villagers told her that she was a kid they had brought back from the wild, so they called her Xiao Cao, Little Grass. She liked this name, because her life was similar to what the name meant. No matter how bad the environment was, she still grew sturdily and tried her best to live. The village she lived in was a poor village in the lowest area of White Lotus Sword Domain. Everyone had a hard life. No one could easily fill their belly all the year round. As an orphan, she knew how hard it was to survive in the world. From 4 years old, she had begun to help other people. When she was 5 years old, she had to go to the forest to catch little bugs to fill her belly. As time went by, 16 years had passed. Xiao Cao had become the only first-rank swordsman in the whole village, becoming the only glory of the villagers. To such a poor village, a first-rank swordsman was already monumental, that it could be recorded into the village's pedigree. With the villagers' blessings and expectations, Xiao Cao had walked a long way alone. Finally, she had hitchhiked a kind noble girl's carriage, coming to the examination place. She had never learnt any sword skills systematically. Compared to Lin Feng, who had been trained as an elite from his childhood, She should not have been at the same level as him. Xiao Cao had clearly understood this even before she saw her opponent. Her journey should have stopped here. This was an opponent she couldn't beat. She had seen the haughty child's battle before the test. Even his weapon and his sword skill were both something she could never obtain. If Lin Feng was a spreading tree, then she was a supple grass stalk. But that isn't the reason for me to give up. At any rate, I have obtained a lucky charm from the black-haired girl, didn't I? With this faith in her mind, Xiao Cao brandished her sword. Then the situation reversed. After she brandished her sword, Xiao Cao suddenly found that the world seemed to have changed. Why was her body so light? Why was her heart so peaceful? Shouldn't she feel nervous to the extent that her heart would explode? She felt that something was growing inside her body. It was a seed. The seed was taking root and sprouting, releasing a mysterious power in her body. Time seemed to have slowed down. At first, Lin Feng's sword should have been sharp and unstoppable, but now, Xiao Cao just felt that his moves were flawed. Not only that, she also had a hunch about where Lin Feng's attack would come from and what his stance would be. She felt as if she had fought with Lin Feng over 100 times and had known everything about him. Was this the power of the lucky charm? With this incredible feeling, Xiao Cao followed her instinct to brandish her sword. Ding! Lin Feng's sword suddenly stopped. Xiao Cao's sword straightly hit the sword skill's floor, blocking Lin Feng's sword. Chapter 76. The Girl's Impossible. That's impossible. You're a monster. Why can you break my fierce wind sword? Lin Feng shouted with anger. He had almost gone mad. Yes, that's impossible. Absolutely impossible. How can a village girl know his fierce wind sword so well? That's his family's ancestral sword skill. Even though his family was just a small branch of the entire Lin family, however, fierce wind sword was a sword skill that could be practiced till the hero rank. It represented Lin family's tradition and glory. You're just a village girl. How can you know fierce wind sword's weakness? No, she wasn't simply aware of his weakness. It looked like she had predicted his every single move. His every single move and charge had all been destroyed. Xiao Cao also wondered about why she felt so familiar with Lin Feng's sword skill. When he held the sword and moved his shoulders, she knew that he would play his fierce wind sword. When he jumped back and charged, she knew that his next move was line drive. When he drew back his sword and lifted his chest, she knew that he was going to start the triple attack. She didn't know the reason. She just knew what he was going to do, as if they had fought each other over 100 times, so that she had remembered all his instinctive moves. If it wasn't because she was just at the first rank and her reaction speed was slightly inferior to Lin Feng, the battle would have already finished within the first 3 rounds. Even though there was a gap between their strengths, but she could predict Lin Feng's every move. The battle was one-sided. To everyone's shock, the person who had the upper hand wasn't Lin Feng, but Xiao Cao. Ding! Xiao Cao's sword wasn't fast nor powerful. However, she could always find Lin Feng's weakness at the crucial moment. Xiao Cao's sword skill was like the breeze and the swaying grass. She wasn't fast, but also not slow. Sometimes, she even purposely avoided head-on confrontation, keeping her steady attack mode. Before launching an attack, prepare your defensive. Before you win the match, never be conceited. She was like a common little grass stalk, taking root and sprouting. No matter how bad the environment was, she would keep growing. Her sword skill was a mortal's sword skill, the most unpretentious sword skill. However, at this time, the little grass seemed to have obtained a bit of incredible spirituality. Due to this, the battle was overturned. Fierce wind triple attack. Lin Feng was angry. He performed the sword skill that he had planned to use in the quarterfinal. He held his sword with his both hands. That was dangerous. Xiao Cao instinctively realized that she couldn't block the attack, so she immediately took 3 steps backwards. Cutting thorn. The cold sword blade almost touched Xiao Cao's forehead. Lin Feng's attack had almost reached the limit of mortals. Swallowing the moon. A moon-like cold sword light spread out in the air, tearing up the edge of Xiao Cao's skirt, exposing her healthy skin. Right now. Xiao Cao had seen it. She had seen the future of a second later. The last attack of Fierce Wind triple attack, swift slashing. It was formed by brandishing a sword hundreds of times and would never stop before the user beat down the enemy. It was Lin Feng's last and strongest attack. However, before launching the attack, he had to perform a special action to draw back his sword in order to burst out his fierce wind-like will and spirit, then brandish the fierce wind-like terrible sword. She couldn't block the last attack. That was the core of Fierce Wind Sword, and the base leading to the higher realm of Lin family's traditional sword skill. It was an attack that had reached the 3rd rank at that very moment. This was the source of Lin Feng's confidence, his base to make him squeeze into the list of top 8. This was his trump card, making him invincible amongst all the 2nd rank swordsmen. As long as he didn't meet the 3 3rd rank childs, Child Yun He, Child Xin Yan, and Child San Quan, he had the confidence that he could win every fight. Unfortunately, something had happened to his opponent, Xiao Cao. Charging. As Lin Feng was going to brandish his sword, Xiao Cao moved. For the first time in the test, Xiao Cao used all her strength without reserve. Xiao Cao focused all her mind on the sword. She had never been so focused, for an unknown voice was telling her in her heart that this brandish would bring her victory. No. Lin Feng shouted with despair as he saw her sword aiming at his only weakness. 1 second. He only needed 1 second. After that, his terrible continuous attack would smash the unknown village girl. The twin witches were holding the test. They would stop him before he really killed her, but his victory was doomed. The girl was just a village girl. How could it be possible that she could block his strongest attack? After he had learned this sword skill, he had never performed it in front of others. He thought that he could catch his enemy off guard with this surprise attack. However, how did you know that I would use this sword skill? Lin Feng shouted in his heart. In his Fierce Wind triple attack, the only weakness would be exposed at the moment he drew back his sword. Kai. Xiao Cao's sword straightly stabbed in Lin Feng's heart. Red blood sprayed into the air. The feeble feeling of suddenly losing too much blood made Lin Feng kneel down. His Fierce Wind sword naturally stopped. Gradually, his eyes closed. Arg! Lin Feng shouted, waking up from his nightmare with his body breaking out in a cold sweat. Young master. Young master woke up. Thank God. You scared me. I'm not dead. Lin Feng looked at his heart. There was a light scar, and his clothes had also been ripped to shreds. He was really only a step away from death. No wonder that he would have that nightmare. No, you're not dead. Before the girl stabbed you, you had been teleported to another place by the twin witches. That was really breathtaking. Fortunately, you're still fine, my young master. Fine? Could this be called fine? Lin Feng looked at the black scar with a nasty look. Don't mind it, young master. The test was too abnormal. Yes, that was too strange. Not only you, the other childs were also defeated. Child Li Wei and Child Luo Yen had also been defeated by the girls. Lin family's servants immediately told him the freak event happened in the test to comfort him. Have Li Wei and Luo Yen been defeated? Lin Feng showed a weird look on his face. White Lotus Sword domain didn't have too many noble families. Therefore, the noble families knew each other very well. Child Li Wei and Child Luo Yen's ancestors were from Western God's domain. Their families had complete legacies which weren't inferior to his Lin family's legacy. He always regarded them as his powerful opponents. Had the girls also defeated them? Gosh, they were just a group of girls who were only at the 1st rank. What was wrong with the world? Chapter 77. Yunshi's Seeds on the Sword Palace's platform. Red Lotus showed an uncommonly seen smile. I've seen many good girls in this test. Yes. Their sword skills are very nimble. Hua Yue nodded, but she also looked a little confused. The girls' steps were nimble, their prejudgment was accurate, and their sense of timing was exquisite. However, that made them feel familiar to her. These girls' sword skills did not look like those from White Lotus Sword Domain, but a bit like her style. That was natural. Looking at the two girls who were fighting each other on the stage, Yunshi couldn't help but slightly twist the corner of his mouth, because the girls were using his seeds. Master, are you satisfied? Finally, your ability has been awakened. Maya's soft voice appeared behind Yunshi's ears. Yes. Just now, when Yunshi presented his black hair to these girls who were eager for luck, some switch suddenly turned on in his brain. It wasn't the system's power, but his own power. It had naturally awakened. The Starchild's love system finally showed a small part of its secret to him. Detect a target. Locking, excellent adaptability. Detect a target. Locking, normal adaptability. Detect a target. Locking, wonderful adaptability. Start to link them. Yunshi could clearly see one thread after another suddenly appearing amongst the girls who had obtained his black hair and himself. The threads were invisible and impalpable, but they did exist, joining together. He didn't know why the threads suddenly appeared. They looked very like the thread between Hua Yue and him, but the threads were much smaller and thinner. They looked as if they would break up at any time. Capture the first target. Capture the second target. Capture the 37th target. Identify the medium. Screen the targets. Find the first eligible person. The first chosen person was the girl named Xiao, the freckled girl who obtained Yunshi's first strand of hair and had a very ordinary birth. Her adaptability was excellent. She was a very outstanding girl amongst all the girls. After a few seconds, similar prompts appeared in rapid sequence. Find the second eligible person. Find the third eligible person. In order to reach this small town, the girls had taken the trouble of traveling a long distance. They were all excellent girls, otherwise they wouldn't have the confidence to take part in the test. In that case, all the girls naturally passed through the examination. After that, something fantastic happened. Even though this wasn't the first time Yunshi had seen this scene, but he still felt incredible. Releasing the seeds. Yes. The star system started to help Yunshi make seeds, then sent them to the girls via the threads. It was like what happened when Yunshi obtained Hua Yue's seed and the Twin Witch's seed. These girls obtained Yunshi's seeds. Yunshi's battle experience in the bloody trials, his understanding about the green hippos, the 5 tiger generals, the childs, the weakened abilities from Hua Yue and the Twin Witches. They were all poured into the girls' bodies together with Yunshi's seeds. They were Yunshi's greatest treasures. In this fantastic way, they turned into seeds and entered the girls' bodies. After that, a wonderful thing began to happen. According to the difference in their physiques and practice methods, the girls' bodies immediately found the most suitable part from Yunshi's seeds and started to absorb them. Because they were just at the first rank, most of them chose the Quicksilver Motion, weakened version, Yunshi's understanding about sword skills, weakened version, and Yunshi's battle experience. After that, things started to develop in a weird direction. After obtaining Yunshi's seeds, the girls performed much better than normal. They kicked the child's asses, making them wail like ghosts and howl like wolves. The excellent girls like Xiao even beat down the second-rank childs. The first round of the entrance test had almost finished, and the girls around Yunshi had almost all passed through the first round. Only Yunshi hadn't started his fight yet. So, the seeds. Can I make them by myself? Feeling the links amongst the girls and himself, Yunshi had a queer expression on his face. Of course. After all, Seed of Soul was an ability invented by you. In the past, you often chose to learn unknown abilities by using this method. Master, you're still too weak now, so the stars help you find high-level seeds, in order to help you become stronger. Master, after you become strong, you can secretly choose your target by yourself. Sharing the seeds is also an ability you invented. The more people you're linking to, the more you will benefit. The girls who have your seeds can offer their understanding and experience to you, helping you improve your seed. As long as the number of seeds isn't beyond your control limit, you can link with as many people as you can. Maya's explanation finally let Yunshi understand how unusual his past life was. He could even create such powerful soul magic in the past. Starchild. It looked like it was a career that was good at soul magics. Oh right, are there any disadvantages to the girls? If possible, Yunshi didn't want to involve other people in his private matters. What had happened just now was just an accident. The disadvantage is if you are dead, the seeds will lose efficacy. There are no other problems. On the contrary, if you can keep growing, their seeds will also be updated with new data from you. You will offer them more power and experience. This is your special ability, the perfect soul magic. It's amazing. So, don't hesitate, Master. As long as there are suitable candidates, just link your seeds to them. When your seeds are all over the universe, that will be magnificent. After hearing that the seeds wouldn't have any adverse effects on the girls, Yunshi let out a sigh of relief. At any rate, he hadn't made any unforgivable crimes. Hey! On the stage, the last girl swordsman defeated her powerful opponent. She grasped the lucky charm in her both hands and showed a bright smile to Yunshi. The seeds didn't have any disadvantages. Chapter 78, Black Flying Swallow. Finally, the first round of White Lotus Sword Palace's entrance test was going to come to a close. Outside of everyone's expectation, the female swordsman camp burst out with amazing fighting capacity. Almost all of them had defeated their opponents and broken into the second round test. They even defeated famous children such as Lin Feng, Li Wei, and Luo Yan. Their combat gains were way beyond everyone's imagination. However, their record would end here because the last person stepping onto the stage was one of the three childs, Child Xinyan, and his opponent was the only second-rank female swordsman in the female swordsman camp, the mysterious black-haired maid named Mai. Cheer up, Child Xinyan. Please revenge for Child Lin Feng. Crush her. Show your masculinity to the girls. Child Xinyan had stepped on the stage. He raised his head and lifted his chest, looking at Yunshi with his sharp eyes. I have to admit the fact that you're pretty strong, but sorry, the test will only have one winner, and that winner is me. Yunshi was speechless. Before the fight began, Child Xinyan had claimed his victory. After a while, Yunshi said, "Well, hope you will teach me more." "You're welcome. I know as a girl, you're pretty good to be a second-rank swordsman at this age. Probably you're also very good at sword skills, just like these female swordsmen before. However, that isn't enough to defeat me. I'm not like these children who are lacking practice," Child Xinyan said, then twisted his neck. His body let out a successive burst of clear sounds. That meant that he had developed his muscles to their current limit. Child Xinyan was indeed unlike other children. His bloodline was from Western God's domain and his height was taller than any other person there. His strapping body was about 2 meters tall. His 4 limbs were slender but strong. His muscles were so compact to the extent that they seemed to be exploding at any time. Besides, his sword was a sophisticated 2-handed blue heavy sword from Western Thunder Army. He looked like a natural general or hero in a story tale. He was even taller and stronger than the 5 tiger generals. His strength was the well-deserved number 1 amongst the 3 childs. Yunshi clearly remembered that when he killed Child Xinyan in the trial, the soul he dropped was even slightly larger than the soul Child San Quan dropped, although Child San Quan's comprehensive strength was the strongest amongst the 3 people. Compared to the female swordsman, his physique had given him a great advantage. Well, he was probably even stronger than the green hippo. After remembering all the enemies he had seen, Yunshi decided to regard Child Xinyan as a slim green hippo with strength united. After all, the green hippo hadn't had any weapons. In terms of quality, Child Xinyan's 2-handed heavy sword was even better than the 2-handed sword Hua Yue used to slay the fiery male dragon. 3. I need only 3 attacks to defeat you. This isn't a place for girls' house game. Child Xinyan arrogantly pointed his 3 fingers straight up, claiming his victory to Yunshi. 1. Child Xinyan shouted. His whole body heightened and his muscles tensed up. After that, he turned into a 2.5-meter-tall giant and started to charge towards Yunshi. Along with his steps, his strength also became more furious. The stone bricks under his feet were all tramped down as if he was a running giant. He was coming. Although Yunshi had killed Child Xinyan once in the trial, however, he had the help of the Crane Wing's twin swords at that time, so he still didn't know a lot about the 3 child's hidden abilities. However, Yunshi had also thoroughly remolded himself after that. With holding his sword in his hand, Yunshi felt extremely bellicose. His blood was so hot and crazy as if it was burning. This was the killing princess's legacy. In his mind, some voice was resounding. Kill, 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 kill. Make everything bloody. Let the blood flow all over the earth, the sea, and the sky. Only killing was the supreme goal. Only blood can satisfy the desire in your heart. Release all restraints. Kill every enemy. What a dangerous legacy. If Yunshi hadn't obtained Hua Yue's seed and the twin witch's seed, he probably would have been conquered by this bloody desire, becoming a killing machine. The killing princess's legacy was really too dangerous. It wasn't a power any ordinary people should obtain. It was very likely that the person who inherited this bloody desire would gradually become insane and uncontrollable as he became stronger and stronger. At this time, Hua Yue's talent and the twin witch's spiritual talent played a pivotal role. The two seeds helped Yunshi control the bloody desire, and turned it into his motivation, temporarily increasing his speed and physical functions. The cold sword blade reflected Yunshi's face. He was so calm and beautiful. His black long hair appeared moonlight-like with mysterious lights. That was the killing princess's gorgeous appearance attained once appeared on the battlefields she had stepped in. At this moment, time seemed to have become slower than normal. No, time didn't become slow. It was Yunshi's thinking speed, blood flow velocity, and neural reaction speed becoming faster than usual under this mode. Hua Yue's talent helped Yunshi get used to the high speed, performing the killing princess's true ability. I had seen that. You would use that skill. Yunshi raised his head with his black hair blowing in the wind. He gazed at the figure who was launching a leap attack at him. As Yunshi expected, the methods used may vary, but the principle was the same. The skill you often used in the trial was your strongest skill. Yunshi stood on his tiptoe. The next moment, he also jumped up in the air. Ha ha, you're bringing about your own destruction. Child Xinyan raised the corner of his mouth. His attack was fierce as always. He never needed defense or route of retreat. No matter who the enemy was, he always launched a direct attack. Not too many people in the world could block his leap attack. Suddenly, he felt his body becoming cold like a cube of ice. His eyes also lost sight. Why did he suddenly see a swallow flying across the sky? What was that? In countless people's eyes, a black swallow unbelievably streaked across the sky, brushing past Child Xinyan's side. Before Child Xinyan fell down to the ground, the black swallow had disappeared in the air. Bang! Child Xinyan's face heavily smashed on the ground. With 3 wounds on his back, he lay down on the ground, keeping his body unmoved. Ien, a perfect flying swallow sword, my. Hua Yue's face wreathed with smiles as she clapped her hands. As she had thought, killing princess was indeed a great sword legacy that was suitable for her little she. Chapter 79. I've got you in my sight. In the noble family's camp, Child Yun. His defeat caused an uproar amongst all the people. No one had expected that as one of the 3 childs and as a man whose bloodline was from Western God's domain and had superhuman strength, Child Xinyan would be defeated in the first round of Sword Palace's entrance test. He was at the 3rd rank. He was a 3rd rank swordsman. Even amongst all the 3rd rank swordsmen, he was at the top level. If he said that his physical strength was the number 2 amongst all the candidates, then nobody would dare say that he or she was the number 1. 3 childs wasn't just a false reputation. They won this honor through their actual battle record. However, what did they see? 1 sword. Yunshi just brandished his sword once, then Child Xinyan had been defeated. It was so easy but incomprehensible. Many people hadn't even seen what had happened. Child Xinyan had been teleported away by the twin witches. The 3 bloody wounds on his back claimed his failure. As 2 people who had clearly witnessed what happened, Child Yunhe and Child Sanquan were dumbfounded. Everything had just happened in 1 second. If one divided that 1 second into 10 parts, then in the first 3 parts, Child Xinyan was gathering his strength, preparing to use his strongest leap attack. The 4th and 5th part were the mysterious black-haired maid's turn. In the face of Child Xinyan's attack, she also jumped up. The next 1/10 of a second was the most important part. Including Child San Quan and Child Yunhee, no one understood how she could have done that. She didn't directly block Child San Yan's slash, but somersaulted in the air, then brandished her sword. She brandished her sword so nimbly and untraceably as if she had a pair of wings on her back. She just jumped up, somersaulted in the air, and brandished her sword, then she had won the battle. It looked like her speed was suddenly accelerated 10 times. She seemed to not be in the same space-time as Child San Yan. From the 7th part to the 10th part, everything had become meaningless, because Child San Yan had been defeated. Strange. That was too strange. Child San Quan frowned. She had such wonderful sword skill and such nimble body movement. How could she be a civilian? No civilians would have the chance to learn such a fantastic sword skill. Where is that maid from? Child Yunhee was annoyed. As a local person, he had never heard about this maid who suddenly appeared. That was too bad. Should I use them? Child Yunhee glanced at his crane-wing twin swords with an irresolute look. The twin swords were his trump card. He had the confidence to use them to defeat any third-rank swordsman. However, if he used them, he was afraid that his score in the eyes of the twin witches would reduce. After all, the twin swords weren't his own strength. Yunhee, it looks like we should get serious, Child San Quan said as he waved his fan sword. His eyes were sharp like a viper that was staring at its prey. It's time to show these civilians the true power of our noble families. Oh, Child San Yan was really unlucky. I know that his sword has some hidden abilities, Child Yunhee sighed. They were noble families' children. They had more means than their own strength. Unfortunately, Child San Yan underestimated his opponent too much. Before he could use his hidden abilities, he had been defeated. When you needed them, you should decisively use them. Why were hidden abilities called trump cards? Because you could use them at the crucial moment to turn the tide of battle. After walking off the stage, the girls greeted Yunhee with cheers. My, good job. You're the strongest. Your lucky charm is really effective. Oh my god, he is Child San Yan. Although he is a little stupid, but his strength is really strong. My, you're so awesome. A second-rank female swordsman defeated a third-rank swordsman. This was the first time I saw that. My, you surely can join the Sword Palace. Thanks to your black hair, I feel that I suddenly have a deeper knowledge about sword skills. Yes, me too. And I thought that I suddenly became strong, so that wasn't my illusion. The girls smiled and twittered like a flock of swallows. They almost started to dance around Yunhee. However, Yunhee looked a little confused. Why was Child San Yan in the real world weaker than the Child San Yan in the star trial? He used that attack without any thoughts. Did he look down on me? Besides, shouldn't there be another strong person? Yunhee remembered that terrible archer in red, who had killed him dozens of times in the trial and almost made him doubt his own ability. Wasn't the archer in red a candidate of the Sword Palace's entrance test? Yunhee was lost in thought. He didn't notice that the relations amongst the girls and himself had become better, the threads amongst them also became more solid. Damn it. I haven't even used my true ability. Child San Yan quickly recovered. He punched the ground angrily, with his eyes filled with tears. How could he expect that the black-haired maid's attack would have been so unpredictable? And why did you know my leap attack so well? Child San Yan had a feeling that the maid had seen through his every single attack. What the hell was all that about? On the hilltop, about 3 kilometers away from the exam area, under a tree, a white-haired person in red watched the exam area. The person slowly raised a black bow, aiming at something. See ****Ka doodle-doo. A white pigeon flew towards the archer in red from a distance and landed on the person's ragged cape. There was a roll of white paper on one of the pigeon's legs, a letter. Act according to our plan. Wait for the sign. If you think it's necessary, you can act autonomously. Still aim at the same target. The archer in red nodded, then casually tore the letter to shreds. Sniff. Sniff. Some strange wheezing came from under the archer's feet. If one took a good look at the ground under the archer's feet, one would find that it was abnormally dark red, like some big monster's scales.
See ****, ka doodle-doo. The pigeon spread its wings, flying to the sky again. Still, have to wait for a while. The archer in red's voice sounded hoarse like his throat had been burnt. The archer in red raised his long bow again. By using his eagle eye, he observed the test. The target his eagle eye locked on was on the Sword Palace's platform, the location where the twin witches were. Chapter 80. Victory. Victory. On the stage, the second round of the Sword Palace's entrance test had begun. Victory, victory, and victory. Cheer up. I will win. Oh gosh, I really won. After obtaining Yunxi's seeds, the female swordsmen defeated their opponents like splitting bamboo. At first, the noble family's children and civilian swordsmen were dismissive of the powers of these female swordsmen. But now, they knew that they were very wrong. Almost all the female swordsmen had entered the third round. Only 2 female swordsmen were defeated by Child San Quan and Child Yun He, the 2 strongest men amongst all the male swordsmen. Apart from this, 3 female swordsmen had also been defeated because their opponents were also female swordsmen who had obtained Yunxi's seeds. Even the female swordsmen themselves couldn't believe their successive victories. Before the test began, they had estimated in their hearts. Only a few female swordsmen had had the confidence to enter the third round. As for other people, they could only pray for their luck. However, the record they had achieved now was so incredible. Even they themselves felt that it was unbelievable. Their hearts were filled with excitement and joy. Even the 5 female swordsmen who had failed were also pleased for their own improvements. Without any previous arrangement, they all paid their attention to the mysterious black-haired girl, Mai. Even though Yunxi thought that what he did was undetectable, but the instincts of the female swordsman told them that Mai was the initiator. The tale was true. The strongest female swordsman. The girl who had the most beautiful black hair. The people who obtained that girl's black hair would obtain luck. Is this an illusion? Why do I feel that everyone's eyes are so weird? Yunxi thought in his heart. He had a strong feeling that the threads between him and the girls were becoming solid. The invisible threads were sending the girls' experience and understanding about sword skills to him. It was even faster than Yunxi's expectation. He had begun to receive their seeds' feedback. Child Xinyan's failure wasn't an accident because what defeated him was Yunxi's flying swallow sword. He hadn't completely mastered his flying swallow sword in the trial, but now, he was able to use it perfectly. The nimble, flying swallow-like attack was called the Swallow Returns. It was more terrible than flying swallow triple attack and could let Yunxi turn around and brandish his sword in the air. At the very moment Yunxi jumped up, he had performed a quicksilver motion. By using his body's compatibility and flexibility to the limit, he turned around in the air. This was the principle of the Swallow Returns. At that instant, Yunxi overcame the rules of gravity, turning himself into a flying swallow, then beat Child Xinyan down with one brandish. The Swallow Returns was the strongest skill Yunxi had learnt after he practiced flying swallow sword to the limit. Visually, it almost broke the limits of the human body structure. In the mortal rank, if you could use it, it also meant that you had almost been in an unassailable position. This was the power of flying swallow sword, perfect version. Yunxi had learnt the Swallow Returns, which also meant that he had combined quicksilver motion and flying swallow sword together perfectly. He was only a step away from being able to learn sky flying sword. The reason why he had reached this level so fast was due to the female swordsmen. Their experience and understanding about sword skills helped him a lot. Although the small town was so unknown that it wasn't even marked on any maps, however, the girls had still come from a long distance to take part in the test. In this, none of them were weak. Although none of them had reached the second rank, but that was due to their physical quality. When it came to talent, many of the female swordsmen weren't inferior to the noble family's children. Maybe a girl's experience and understanding about sword skills could only help Yunxi a bit. However, there were 37 female swordsmen. A change in quantity led to change in quality. Finally, their experiences helped Yunxi open the door to the perfect version of flying swallow sword. Especially the first girl who had obtained his hair, Xiao Cao.
Her special willpower and resilience were crucial to Yunxi's success. Her experience helped Yunxi remedy his last weakness, willpower. After wandering between death and life so many times, Yunxi had understood Flying Swallow Sword very well, and Hua Yue's seed let him learn it easily. However, Yunxi still lacked the most basic sword skill experience. In his limit practice, he had brandished his sword over 100,000 times in a short time in order to increase his experience of basic sword training. However, Xiao Cao didn't have the same experience as Yunxi. She had learnt her sword skill from the most basic part, bit by bit. She hadn't had the help of Green Hippo's blood seed like Yunxi. With her own willpower, she had practiced the most basic sword skill countless times, which was far beyond ordinary people's imagination. Her persevering, staid sword skill style was mastered after brandishing her sword over 1,000,000 times. Similarly, other female swordsmen had also practiced the basic sword skills very diligently. The reason why they were still at the first rank was only because their physical qualities hadn't met the requirement to become a second-rank swordsman. However, Yunxi had learnt his sword skills from actual battles. He was lacking theoretical knowledge. Their experiences of basic sword skills covered this shortage. Mai, it's your turn. Your opponent is Child Snake Bones. Cheer up, you can defeat him. Humph, he is just a second-rank swordsman, how can he defeat Mai? Don't worry too much. Child Snake Bones. He was really an old acquaintance. Yunxi took a light breath, then held the sword in his hand. He still remembered that Child Snake Bones was the strongest person in the Stone Soldier army and the person who had killed him countless times in the first district of the formal trial. We meet again, Yunxi stepped on the stage, then smiled to Child Snake Bones. Again? Have we met before? Child Snake Bones held his sword and looked at Yunxi with a serious look, as if he was confronting a formidable enemy. Well, yes. You were really enthusiastic at that time. Yunxi raised his sword. To be exact, Child Snake Bones had killed him many times. His Snake Bones spirit sword was the first spirit weapon Yunxi had obtained. Large drops of sweat were dropping down from Child Snake Bones' forehead. Why? They both were at the second rank. Besides, his weapon and physical strength were obviously better than the mysterious black-haired maid. However, when he looked at the maid, he felt that he was looking at a nightmare. No. I can't go on like this. I should strike first to gain the initiative. Child Snake Bones moved. His Snake Bones soft sword turned into a freaky shadow snake, twisting its body and biting towards Yunxi. However, Yunxi only felt a little nostalgic. How many times had I been killed by that? Yunxi thought in his heart. Yunxi's step was as weird as the Snake Bones soft sword. He whipped his sword like a whip, swaying the Snake Bones soft sword away. Everything was so natural. Snake Bones' soft sword had a special ability to confuse its enemy's visual sense and positional sense. However, it had no effect on Yunxi. Kai. Till Yunxi's sword stabbed into his heart, Child Snake Bones still refused to believe that his unique skill had been broken. Why did you know that place? That was the only weakness in my attack. Because I had been killed by that attack over 100 times, Yunxi answered in his heart. Chapter 81, Instant Kill. After the end of the second round, everyone surprisingly found out that there were nearly 30 female swordsmen entering the third round. In the past, they were like some ornaments in other people's eyes. No one had expected that they could seize nearly 30% of the quota. That's just bullshit. Impossible. Impossible. Someone come tell me that this isn't real. When did the female swordsman of White Lotus Sword Domain have such brilliant sword skills? If the result of the first round could be regarded as a coincidence, now, 2 rounds had finished and about 30% of the victors were female swordsmen. No one believed that it was a realistic result. According to the past record, most of these female swordsmen shouldn't even pass through the first round of the entrance test. After 2 rounds, there should only be a few female swordsmen still remaining on the stage. If it wasn't because White Lotus Sword Palace often intentionally recruited a few girls to balance the sex ratio of new disciples, it wouldn't be surprising to discover that none of the female swordsmen had passed through to the second round. In the mortal rank, Males had greater advantages in physical quality over females. Only until the hero rank would this situation would start to change. Humph. Don't look down upon us. We're not weak. Besides, our lucky goddess is blessing us. Several vivacious female swordsmen made faces at the male swordsman camps. However, their youthful faces also looked a little confused. It seemed that this test was really different from the past. They were all hard-working female swordsmen. They could easily feel the difference when they brandished their swords. Their physical qualities had not been strengthened. However, when they stood on the exam area, they would naturally enter an excitable state. In this state, their steps would become more nimble and their speed of brandishing their swords would also become faster. The most important thing was their fantastic prejudgment ability. They felt that they could see through their opponent's moves before their opponents started moving. For the first time, battles became so easy for them. They even began to enjoy the process. They felt as if their swords suddenly had souls. These were the only words they could find to describe their changes. Due to that, their mediocre sword skills had a sudden but massive change. We've really become strong. I also feel like that. It's not your illusion. I felt that I suddenly understood many things. It must be the effect of Mai's lucky charm. Thank God. The girls were immersed in the joy of becoming strong and peeped at Mai from time to time. The more frequently they looked at the mysterious black-haired girl, the more active and vibrant the seeds in their hearts would be. They felt that something was growing in their hearts, waiting for the right time to break through the soil. Mai, Xiao Cao offered Yun Shi the most basic sword skill experience and had the strongest bond with Yun Shi. Her behavior was most obvious. She had brandished her sword over 1,000,000 times. Even if she faced death, she had the confidence that her hands wouldn't shake. But now, she crossed her two hands together with a shy look. Only my quicksilver motion hasn't reached perfection. Yun Shi didn't realize that the girls were looking at him enthusiastically and shyly. He was focusing on continuing to improve his sword skill. His flying swallow sword had reached its perfect version. If his quicksilver motion also reached perfection, he would be able to practice Hua Yue's most terrible sword skill, Sky Flying Sword, 10% version. Yun Shi had been looking forward to practicing this godlike sword skill from a long time ago. Even though he could only learn its 10% version, that was still enough for him to be invincible amongst mortal rank people. Soon afterwards, the Sword Master's voice came from the Sword Palace's platform. The third round begins. Number 11 vs number 36. Number 47 versus number 35. The girls came back to earth from the joy of passing through the second round. Now, they stepped onto the stage again. However, their eyes looked more confident. Their steps had become more light. Every girl secretly took a glance at Yun Shi before they stepped on the stage, then their eyes brightened up with confidence. I can win. I must win. Because we are blessed. After that, they crushed all their opponents. At first, the people still felt surprised and their bodies shivered. Finally, they became callous, with their bodies stiff like wood and their mouths opened wide. They witnessed the girls defeating one male swordsman after another with their own eyes. Amongst the first-rank swordsmen, no one was match for them. Even these second-rank male geniuses were also defeated. Their failures were so fast and unexpected, which even made them start to wonder about the meaning of their lives. Child Yun, he was the only one who still remained as the last honor of noble family's camp. His Yun He sword skill was so exceptional that he blocked his opponent's every attack and successfully passed through the third round. At the end of the third round, Yun Shi met another old acquaintance. Child San Quan, the strongest in personal strength amongst the three childs. He had 3 careers, a swordsman, Taoist priest, and alchemist at the same time, and had the spirit weapon 5 animals fan sword. I know you're the initiator. You caused this whole change. What did you do? Child San Quan waved his fan sword, staring at Yun Shi. Especially Yun Shi's chest and his flawless black hair. After that, he looked down at Yun Shi's feet and his exotic black dress. Well. Very well. I haven't seen such a high-quality maid for a long time. Do you want to come and swear loyalty to me? Who do you think you are? Yunxi looked at him with disdain. Amongst the three childs, you're the most cunning and frivolous person. In the trial, you always looked down upon other people. If Hua Yue didn't remind him, Yunxi would think that Child San Quan was the hidden boss amongst the three childs. But in battle, he was actually impressive to the eye but of no use. No matter if it was the mysterious archer in red or Child Yunhe, they were actually stronger than Child San Quan. Only Child Xin Yan wasn't likely to defeat him very easily, because Child Xin Yan was too honest and didn't know how to deal with tricks. The best way to defeat Child San Quan was to beat him down before he used any underhand tricks. Shuffle. Yunshu used Quicksilver motion to increase his speed. His running was graceful like sheep on the prairie, making him instantly cross dozens of meters. Well, it may not a bad idea. Let me play with you for a while. You will soon understand the true power of our noble families. Child San Quan waved his fan sword and started to deploy some stuff on the exam area. The next second, he saw a flying swallow. Chapter 82. Air Battle Sword Skill. Mortals had no idea about what an air battle was. Humans weren't birds. They didn't have wings. Even if a mortal rank person had strong muscles like Child Xin Yan, after gathering all their strength, that person would only be able to jump a few meters. The hang time was so short that the person could only do a few things within that period of time, for instance, launching a leap attack. Therefore, as long as a person was still a mortal, no matter what that person's career was, swordsman, alchemist, Taoist priest, mage or knight, that person wasn't likely to know a lot about air battles. However, amongst all the mortal rank skills, Flying Swallow Sword was one of the few skills that could let its user launch an attack from the air. Of course, one could do that only after they could use their Flying Swallow Sword perfectly and Quicksilver motion skillfully. Yunxi had met both requirements, in which case, he could temporarily get rid of the weight and restrictions, turning into a swallow and flying to the sky. Therefore, when Child San Quan still secretly dropped his little tricks onto the exam area, he suddenly saw Yunxi jumping up into the air and avoiding all the traps. His mind went blank. This wasn't what he had expected. In order to defeat this unknown black-haired maid, he had tried his best. After stepping onto the stage, he had begun to place traps around the exam area by using some sneaky methods. However, even though he had 3 careers, Taoist priest, alchemist, and swordsman at the same time, he hadn't expected that a mortal rank person could have such amazing bodily movement and nimble flying aptitude. The world seemed to have slowed down at that moment. No. Child San Quan could think 3 times faster than ordinary people. He tried his best to activate all the traps. One transparent thread after another bounced up from the ground. If Yunxi had rushed into that area, he would have faced inevitable death. These threads extended from the 5 animals' fan sword. They were pretty sharp such that they could easily slice a green hippo to pieces. However, Yunxi wasn't rushing to him from the ground, but flying to him from the sky. The only place the traps didn't cover was where Child San Quan stood. Shuffle. That was the sound of wind, but also the sound of a sword. Sigh. Faintly, Child San Quan heard the splashing sound of his blood, then he fainted. All the people around the exam area fell silent. Pa. 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 These people suddenly heard applause coming from the Sword Palace's platform. How long had it been since the Flying Swallow Sword was invented by that peerless sword master? Since that time, only a few mortal people could use it. Yunxi became a swallow and flew through the air. When he did, killing his enemy was as easy as picking his own pocket. Actually, that was just an illusion, as he never was a swallow. Due to his powerful leaping ability, body control, and his slender, nimble physique, others would only perceive him as such. At the mortal rank, only a few sword skills could let the user fly in the air. Many people had practiced this sword skill, however, none of them had achieved success. Many people thought that this sword skill should not be listed in the mortal rank sword skills list. People should wait till they reached hero rank, then begin to practice air battle sword skills. However, Yunxi's The Swallow Returns clearly told them that they didn't need to wait till they had achieved the hero rank. They didn't even need to reach the 3rd rank. Reaching the 2nd rank was already enough, because Flying Swallow Sword was a sword skill for mortals. Any person could learn it after they practiced their sword skills to the limit. When the sword master created this sword skill, he hadn't reached the hero rank yet. Fly Swallow Sword was undoubtedly a mortal rank sword skill. It was a key leading to a higher realm. I was defeated. What's wrong with that maid? Since she has mastered such a wonderful sword skill, she can directly apply for admission. Why did she come to participate in the entrance test? Child San Quan couldn't accept the truth that he had been defeated. Because his throat had been sliced by Yunshi's sword, he covered his throat with his hands and frantically shouted. Many people agreed with Child San Quan's words. Even several Sword Palace sword skill teachers also nodded. They were sword skill teachers. They knew that in order to perform the swallow returns as a second-rank person, the user must have amazing body flexibility and great sword talent. He is right. The maid can use the swallow returns. Her talent is worthy of admission. Perhaps her talent is only slightly inferior to that specially enrolled girl, Hua Yue. On the Sword Palace's platform, Red Lotus smiled, then wrote down the black-haired maid's name on the admission list. This meant that Yunshi had passed through the entrance test. Red Lotus thought that Yunshi had showed enough talent, so she didn't need to prove herself by participating in the next knockout round. After hesitating for a while, Red Lotus added a new name on the admission list, Xiao Cao's name. Her results were the best amongst all the girls who had obtained Yunshi's seed. Strange. That's too fast. Hua Yue of course knew Yunshi's exact details, but now, Yunshi's achievements made her feel confused. A week ago, Yunshi hadn't even mastered the Quicksilver motion steps and had just learnt how to breathe in the right way. Why was he even able to use the perfect version of the swallow returns? What was the talent Yunshi had awakened? Besides, when Hua Yue looked at the girls around Yunshi, her heart kept warning her that something was wrong. Her special ability as Yunshi's childhood sweetheart launched, Jealousy Radar. Shuffle, 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 shuffle. Numerous red points appeared in Hua Yue's mind, which really scared her. Was something wrong with her jealousy radar? Why did she think that every girl around Yunshi was her love rival? In their eyes, Yunshi should be a black-haired maid named Mai. Why was it that when they looked at Yunshi their sights were so fervent? Their faces blushed, their mouths were moist, and their expressions made them look like some shy little rabbits. Everything just showed that they were a group of girls in love. Yunshi, what did you do to them? Or on the contrary, did they do something to you? Who could tell her that what had happened between the girls and Yunshi when she had gone to meet the twin witches? No. I can't lose. I'm the strongest. After seeing Child San Quan's defeat, Child Yun finally made a decision. You can fly. No, that can't be real. The maid should be only able to temporarily stop in the air. What she used are still mortal rank skills. However, I have the Crane Wing twin swords. They are hero rank weapons that are beyond everyone's imagination. How could ordinary people know the true power of Crane Wing's twin sword? I, Child Yun will be the last winner. When my Crane Wing's twin swords fly to the sky, it will be the time of your death. Chapter 83, Hua Yue. The penultimate round of Sword Palace's entrance test started. There were over 300 candidates taking the test. No one had expected that after several rounds of tests, 3 of the final 4 people would be female swordsmen. The male civilians' camp had been completely annihilated. Over 20 female swordsmen entered the list of top 36. In the quarterfinal, the girls had defeated almost all the male swordsmen, except Child Yun. In fact, there was another male. Unprecedentedly, 7 female swordsmen entered the list of the top 8. As for the noble family's camp, only Child Yun was still active in the test. Almost all the noble families turned to support him, placing all their hopes and honor to the only surviving third-rank child. After several rounds of internal battles, 2 female swordsmen stood on the exam area. The first girl was Xiao Cao, a civilian. She had obtained Yunshi's blessing and had a solid sword skill foundation. The second girl was Hua Yue, an aristocratic miss. She had also obtained Yunxi's blessing and was good at a gorgeous Western God's Domain's sword skill named Crossed Sword. The two girls' sword skill styles were completely different. Xiao Cao was good at basic sword skills, which was even unexceptionable in Yunxi's eyes. Hua Yu's crossed sword was also excellent. She was the strongest female swordsman in this test. One was a civilian, a poor girl who practiced her sword skill only for standing out amongst others. Another was an aristocratic miss, a gold rose-like maiden who had received the best education since her childhood. Xiao Cao's sword was a long steel sword. Its outward appearance was weathered and antiquated. However, it was the best weapon the villagers had purchased from a traveler, and in order to buy it, the villagers had spent all of their money. Hua Yu's sword was a gorgeous holy crossed sword. Its sword handle was set with a white gold cross, and its sword blade was engraved with beautiful elf-style patterns. It was even more expensive than Child Xin Yan's two-handed heavy blue sword and was a spirit weapon that could be used up till the hero rank. A civilian and an aristocratic miss. Xiao Cao was as ordinary as a stalk of little grass. Hua Yu was exalted like a rose. They should have been in two different camps. Their appearances had also highlighted their differences. Xiao Cao had light freckles on her face, plus her fallow-colored ponytail and simple leather armor. Everyone could determine her poverty. Although Xiao Cao's face was delicate, but apparently, she didn't pay too much attention in dressing herself up. She was just a normal village girl. Hua Yu wore elaborate silver armor, and every part of the armor had been crafted. It was as perfect as her figure, far above any luxury goods. The silver lines on her armor highlighted her supple breasts. If comparing just one's figure and appearance, Hua Yu was obviously the winner. The size of Hua Yu's breasts had shown the desperate gap between them. If there was a way to change breasts into fighting capacity, Hua Yu was no doubt 3 times stronger than Xiao Cao. However, due to a single person, they were not confronting each other with hostility. They smiled, crossing each other's sword. Xiao Cao, if you don't want to lose, try to defeat me with your full strength, Hua Yu said. Since Hua Yu's childhood, she had been taught by a famous knight from Western God's Domain. Her crossed sword was a very powerful sword skill. Besides, she had the blessing of the fantastic black hair. She was only 1 step away from reaching the 2nd rank. If no accident happened, she would be one of the few female swordsmen who would enter Sword Palace by their own talents. She had also obtained the miracle appearing in the other girls' bodies. As a girl who had received the standard sword skill education, she knew the importance of that miracle. Everything was because of the inexplicable relationship with that mysterious black-haired maid, Mai. Xiao Cao had yet to understand the changes, however, she could instinctively master the power of that miracle. Amongst the 37 female swordsmen, she was the only girl who was match for Hua Yu. Hua Yu wasn't wrong. Amongst the 37 female swordsmen, Xiao Cao's and her talent were the best. Due to this, they had high affinity with Yunxi's seeds and absorbed most of the seed's power. Xiao Cao had learned Hua's basic breathing method. She steadily walked on the road leading to the strongest sword skill. Hua Yu had absorbed the most gorgeous and powerful part of Flying Swallow Sword, which meant that she had learned the swallow returns. They are going to reach the 2nd rank. Due to the threads, Yunxi could see Xiao Cao and Hua Yu's growth through his naked eyes. Maybe Hua Yu had more adequate nutrition. In Yunxi's eyes, her growing speed was slightly faster than Xiao Cao. Perhaps she would be the first girl reaching the 2nd rank. I will never admit defeat. Xiao Cao looked at Hua Yu's chest with envy, then looked at her own flat chest. For the first time in her life, she showed a depressed look on her face. If only sword skill was involved, she could catch up with Hua Yu through hard work. However, chests, the gap between them was hopelessly too wide. How much milk had Hua Yu drank that her breasts were so big? Hee, don't mind, you're still at the puberty age. After we enter Sword Palace, I will recommend you some cookbooks that can help you become big. Hua Yu knew that Xiao Cao would no doubt enter Sword Palace, so she played up to Xiao Cao and showed vague gloating in her eyes. The Western God's Domain speciality, Highland milk, was incredibly expensive. Fortunately, she had inherited her mother's bloodline so that she could absorb the Highland milk to get herself into so proud a shape. As an aristocratic miss, she had always tried her best to keep her knowledge, sword skill and appearance perfect. "I don't have money," Xiao Cao said and shook her head, then grasped her sword. She was poor. Even if she had money, she would use it to strengthen her equipment and not to enhance her breasts. "Don't worry. After you join Sword Palace, the door to a new world will open for you," Hua Yue said. She wasn't lying. The Sword Palace only recruited talented swordsmen. Once Xiao Cao reached the hero rank, she would have a chance to enhance her breasts. At least, as far as Hua Yue knew, hundreds of gods' domains had posted an inconceivable reward for catching a multi-headed demon dragon. The multi-headed demon dragon's blood was a priceless treasure that could save the poor girls whose breasts were incurably flat. It was said that countless forces had joined up trying to catch that multi-headed demon dragon, but none of them had achieved success. The multi-headed demon dragon was still on the run. Chapter 84, White gold rose in the sights of the crowd. The battle between Xiao Cao and Hua Yue started. Out of many people's expectation, Hua Yue wasn't the person who made the proactive attack. Xiao Cao seemed to have a premonition. For the first time in her life, she gave up her stable attack style but launched an indomitable, straight attack towards Hua Yue. Her sword was unpretentious and her thrusting was simple. However, when Xiao Cao brandished her sword, her moves were so pleasing to the eye. Stable. Xiao Cao's moves were extremely stable and her sword skill was as basic as the content in the textbook. This was Xiao Cao's sword. A mortal's sword. No one had taught Xiao Cao anything. She had mastered the basic sword skill through brandishing her sword millions of times. In that case, she could stand out from the candidates and stand on the stage of the final four. Ding! Hua Yue stepped forward, parrying Xiao Cao's thrusting attack by using her white gold crossed sword. Hua Yue's sword skill was straight and gave the crowd a sacred feeling, because her sword skill was an authentic knight legacy from Western God's domain. She had the bloodline of white gold rose flag in her body. Her teacher was a white gold knight who was admitted by Knight God's domain. Ding! 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 Xiao Cao performed continuous thrusts. Without any fancy tricks, her continuous thrusting was just strengthening the most standard thrusting attack again, and again, gathering all her strength together to launch a general attack towards Hua Yue. My sword skill was invented by Shinra, the legendary white gold rose knight. It is called Holy Crossed Sword, Hua Yue said. She held her white gold crossed sword with both her hands and looked pretty devout. She showed strong self-confidence and inviolability in her eyes. She was different from other noble children because she was a girl who had the true knight bloodline. Her ancient bloodline gave her a tough character and dignified will, and helped her practice to her limit. Xiao Cao's sword skill had nearly reached perfection. Hua Yue's sword skill wasn't inferior to hers, but more balanced and biased towards the knight's creed. If Xiao Cao's sword skill was as wild as a strand of grass, then Hua Yue's sword skill was as steady as an upright cross. Unlike Flying Swallow Sword, Hua Yue's sword skill was very different from the traditional Eastern sword skill style. It was a sword skill from Western Knight God's domain. My teacher used to say that if I wanted to practice crossed sword, then I had to understand the meanings of humility, integrity, compassion, bravery, justice, sacrifice, honor, and so. Hua Yue's will and spirit were rising. She threw out her chest with pride, as if something was growing in her body. Hey! Yun, she felt it. Although it was pretty weak, but there was a small seed rapidly growing in the girl's body. I will be kind to the weak. I will be brave against the strong. I will fight all who do wrong. I will fight for those who cannot fight. I will help those who call me for help. I will harm no woman. I will help my brother. I will be true to my friend. I will be faithful in love. That was the knight's creed, and their virtue. Every knight would swear the words before they chose their own path. In the name of White Gold Rose bloodline, I choose the holy sword. Hua Yue raised her white gold crossed sword, telling the world her choice. Red Lotus looked at Hua Yue in surprise. Hua Yue was covered in white lights. Obviously, she was awakening her own bloodline ability. Isn't it the bloodline oath of Night God's domain? How? Is she, Yen? She is my older female cousin, Hua Yue nodded. Although Hua Yue's bloodline was slightly inferior to Hua Yue's bloodline, but the White Gold Rose bloodline was also a top-level bloodline in Western God's domain. Many legendary knights were proud of having this bloodline. Her name Hua Yue also had some relationship with Hua Yue's family. After all, their families were allies, and for thousands of years the two families had had strong connections through marriages. Instantly, Hua Yue broke the barrier blocking the way leading to the second rank. After she confirmed her own will and swore to be a knight, her power started rising. She immediately broke through the primary stage of the second rank, the middle stage of the second rank, and the final stage of the second rank. Hua Yue's power kept growing till she had almost reached the third rank, then the boiling power of her bloodline finally began to fade away. Due to her awakened bloodline, her black hair turned gold and her pupils mixed with light blue. That was the proof of her resurgent old bloodline. I'm too late, Xiao sighed. She took the active attack because she had noticed that Hua Yue was going to level up. If she couldn't defeat Hua Yue before that, she would lose. Unfortunately, she was too late. Now, the gap between their powers would no longer be reduced through skills. Hua Yue wasn't Lin Feng. Her sword skill was flawless. Besides, she also had the blessing of the black hair. Is this bloodline awakening? Hua Yue was satisfied with the appearance she saw from the reflection in her sword blade. White Gold Rose bloodline deserved its reputation. As a top-level bloodline from Night God's domain, it would let the owner return to their bloodline origin. Once her hair totally turned gold and her eyes totally turned blue, her bloodline awakening would finally complete. Holy Crossed Sword. Flying Swallow Sword. After awakening her bloodline, Hua Yue immediately performed the sword skill she had learnt from Yunshi's seed. Even if it was for catching a rabbit, the lion would make an all-out effort. Hua Yue knew Xiao's potential better than anyone. She knew that if she didn't overcome Xiao as quickly as possible, it wouldn't be surprising to see Xiao also reaching the second rank at any time. Even though Xiao was in an absolutely inferior position, she didn't give up hope and tried her best to struggle to win. Ding, ding, ding. With a series of crashes, Xiao's steel sword issued a cry-like sound. In the face of Hua Yue's white gold crossed sword, the steel sword had been unable to hold on any longer. Finally, Hua Yue won the test after she shattered Xiao's steel sword. Ha ha ha, I said before that a village girl can't be that strong. Just as I thought, the victory belongs to our noble families. Child Yun, he let out a sigh of relief and laughed after seeing Hua Yue's victory. Chapter 85. Their seeds know, you're wrong. In fact, Xiao's talent was much better than Hua Yue's. She shook his head as Child Yun he laughed. At this moment, the two girls' seeds had appeared in his body. At the moment Xiao's sword was shattered, a seed had appeared in her body. If Xiao's sword had been tougher, the battle wouldn't have ended so fast. In that case, the final result would still be uncertain. Now, Yunshi absorbed the two newborn seeds into his body through the invisible threads between the two girls and himself. Yunshi himself also didn't expect that he would obtain the two girls' seeds in such a short period of time. He couldn't see any traces of any new seeds being born in the other 35 girls' bodies. Xiao and Hua Yue both were just at the second rank, therefore the rank of their seeds wasn't high. As a person who had higher power, their seeds didn't have any secrets in Yunshi's eyes. Hua Yue's seed, Holy Crossed Sword, proficient. This is a knight's sword skill from Western White Gold Rose family. It was beloved amongst knights and the people with evil intentions were unable to learn it. It was a pre-skill of a high-level sword skill, Holy Spirit Crossed Sword. White Gold Rose bloodline, partly awakened a high-level bloodline from Western White Gold Rose family. It can help the owner become a natural knight and offers a noticeable increase in the owner's strength and holy power. As a second-rank seed, it was pretty excellent. It was even better than the third-rank monster Green Hippo's seed. Besides, it was the first low-level seed she had seen that contained the bloodline from another god domain. However, although Xiao was defeated due to a bad quality sword, her seed had more amazing properties. Xiao's seed, Mortal's Sword, perfect. The person who held this sword had practiced the Mortal's Sword skill to the limit. In that case, the person was able to learn any high-level sword skills 2 times faster than ordinary people. Mind's eye, incomplete, a kind of insight learning from practice and exercise. It could help the owner analyze the environment and catch the tiniest opportunity to reverse the situation. Combat intuition, partly awakened, this ability could help the owner analyze the battle trend and respond to it in advance. At any time, the owner of this ability could use 100% strength. Persevering heart. The grass-like girl had a persevering heart. It could help her open the door to a higher rank. This was too powerful. After seeing the properties of Xiao Cao's seed, Yunxi exclaimed in his heart. She was like a grass seed, sleeping under the ground to get through the chilly winter. As long as spring came, she would break through the endless dark and bloom in splendor. Xiao Cao's seed was just at the first rank, however, Yunxi had seen endless possibilities from it. Amongst all the girls Yunxi had seen, Xiao Cao's talent was only slightly inferior to Hua Yue. Undoubtedly, as long as she could keep growing, she would have the chance to reach the hero rank or an even higher rank. Although it was just a first-rank seed, but after obtaining it, Yunxi felt that the barrier which stopped him reaching the third rank was breaking. This was Xiao Cao's talent, a mortal's superpower. Now, she was still an ordinary first-rank female swordsman, but Yunxi believed that someday she would become a legend. Of course, Hua Yue wasn't inferior to Xiao Cao. She was also excellent. However, compared to Xiao Cao's amazing talent, she still needed to improve herself. Maybe their competition would continue for a pretty long time. Hua Yue's bloodline and sword skill were better than Xiao Cao's. Xiao Cao had a higher learning ability, comprehension, and willpower. They were Grass and White Gold Rose. The 2 nicknames were really suited to them. I lost. Xiao Cao's eyes were inflamed. She collected the fragments of her broken sword sadly. For the first time in her life, she was defeated on such a momentous occasion and tasted the bitter taste of failure. If her weapon had been tougher. If she could see through Hua Yue's moves earlier. However, there wasn't any if existing in the world. She had been defeated. That was the truth. Moreover, her opponent hadn't used any tricks but defeated her through a fair battle. She shouldn't make her weapon as the excuse. Fairness wasn't a word existing on the real battlefield. Don't get discouraged. I know you haven't dug out your true power. As the winner, Hua Yue gracefully stretched out her hand to Xiao Cao. Next time, you should use a better weapon. Xiao Cao nodded. She carefully collected the fragments of her broken steel sword and walked off the stage together with Hua Yue. Great. You did well. Xiao Cao, how did you do that? Hua Yue's attack. Even if it was I facing that attack, I didn't think that I could dodge it, but you parried it. What a pity. If you had a better weapon, you wouldn't lose so fast. I would have lent you my sword if I had foreseen this result. The female swordsman laughed and greeted their return. Everyone sighed for Xiao Cao's failure. Compared to the battle between Mayan child Xin Yan and the battle between Mayan child San Quan, they could clearly understand and learn from the battle between Xiao Cao and Hua Yue. Everyone had learnt a lot from their battle. Some of them had almost seen the road leading to the second rank. Sorry, I lost. I couldn't beat her, Xiao Cao said with a sad look as she nervously walked to Yunxi. She had also been defeated in the past, but this time, she felt extremely unwilling. Xiao Cao, only the person who had tasted the pain of failure could understand the value of victory. Maybe no person in the world had experienced more deaths and failures than Yunxi. Due to the star's Yanda love, he was slaughtered by the Green Hippo in the newbie trial, and in the formal trial, the Stone Soldier army had killed him again and again. At that time, he had almost started to doubt the meaning of his life. Therefore, he understood Xiao Cao's feeling. Failure is the mother of success. It's not a terrible thing to be defeated. As long as you're still alive, you will have the chance to win. Xiao Cao lowered her head. After a while, she grasped the fragments of her sword in her hand, flashing a bright smile at Yunxi. Of course, she wouldn't be unable to get up after this failure. She was Xiao Cao, a strand of little grass, and grass could grow in any terrible environment. Hua Yue was strong. For now, I couldn't find a way to defeat her. In that case, I should train myself harder. This is the reason why I participated in the Sword Palace's entrance test. Isn't it? Xiao Cao made a decision in her heart. Looking at Xiao Cao's smiling face, Yunxi suddenly blushed. The thread between them was quietly dyed with a different color. Aga. Hua Yue stared at Xiao Cao and Yunxi. A terrible feeling was accumulating in her heart. Is it my imagination? It must be my imagination. Yunxi, why are you exchanging love glances with that girl named Xiao Cao? You're my great sword maid. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.